And this week on NWP, are we there yet?
Road tripping with my two favorite allies. Fully loaded, we got snacks and supplies. It's time to leave this town, it's time to steal away. Let's go get lost anywhere in the USA. Let's go get lost, let's go get lost. Blue, you sit so pretty west of the one. Sparkle like with yellow icing, just a mirror for the sun.
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 103. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian. I am joined as always by Patrick.
Talk about backseat fishing.
And Angelo.
I'm back again. Hello,
who almost
Patrick.
wasn't. And yes, we are once again here to talk about a lot of video games, and we're just going to go ahead and hop right into it. Just get the no introductions or rambling. Like, let's just do it because it's the holidays. Let's jump into some stage select. This week, Stage Select was my pick, and I feel that it was possibly a taller order than for some people than I thought, so we might be modifying this a little bit. My initial idea was to choose 3 Japanese franchises and then give them to 3 different Western developers. As you'll see throughout this segment, that's not really what ended up happening, but it's cool. We'll just kind of roll with it. But I'll go ahead and kick it off, I guess. And the thing here is we're not going to go deep into like what type of game we think it should be. It's more just going to be, this is why we want this particular developer working on it. So my first one is the Silent Hill franchise, which is now unfortunately dormant. There was Silent Hills that was being worked on by Kojima Productions and Guillermo del Toro right before Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, and then that is unfortunately not happening. So Silent Hill is up in the air, and Konami is a shell of its former self, but it's a really good series and it's a really good franchise, and it would be a shame to see it just go by the wayside. So I would give it to Supermassive Games, and they are the developers of Until Dawn. For the longest time, for like years, I've been saying that it should be Quantic Dream, David Cage's joint, to do Silent Hill, because I think that his games are unintentionally some of the scariest games I've played in a while. Like, he has a lot of really creepy parts in all of his games. But then Supermassive came around and outdid Quantic Dream completely with Until Dawn. So that's really who I'd want to do it. They could almost just make Until Dawn but with Silent Hill, and I'd be kind of happy with that. I think definitely more like roaming around and stuff like that, but that level of cinematic and tension building and stuff like that, I think just works for the Silent Hill series, and I think they're perfect for it. This is just going to be one of those episodes where no one reacts to anything, isn't
No,
it?
that's cool.
You know more about Silent Hill than me.
Yeah, and you know more about Until Dawn than me. So, although I would say, I don't want to see Silent Hill go away, and I want to say that was one of the ones that was batting around in my brain. So,
yeah,
because it's a, what about the people that did what are those super creepy games? Like the oh gosh, my brain isn't working again. It's been a long week for me, huh?
Like Amnesia?
Yeah, who were they?
I don't remember that developer, but yeah, I think they're also an easy choice if you're talking about bringing back Silent Hill and having a Western developer do it. And we've actually had a Western developer do Silent Hill. I should make that clear. Homecoming and Downpour were both done by Western developers, so that might almost disqualify this selection for me because it's actually been done. I hadn't thought about that.
Those weren't so great, if I remember.
I like Homecoming. Downpour is not good.
Do those count as full-fledged entries in the franchise?
Yeah. Those were like the follow-ups to Silent Hill 4. It was like Silent Hill 5 and 6 respectively. And then there's Silent Hill Shattered Dreams, and that one might have been a Western developer also. This might be a terrible selection. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about, like, oh wait, yeah, that's right.
This happened.
Homecoming, Downpour. I kind of forget about those games, and I haven't played Shattered Memories. I want to. I need to hunt that one down for my Wii.
I guess it's the wrong type of game then, because I mean, most games I think would be good, well suited for the type of Until Dawn treatment that you're talking about, especially horror games, but that's not the way that those two went.
Right. At once, Shattered Memories actually did kind of go that way, where there's like no combat and stuff like that. But I do like combat in my Silent Hill games, and I don't know if this developer can do that. I haven't played any of their other games, so I don't know, or if they even have any other games. Oh yeah, no, these guys do weird stuff. They did a Doctor Who game. They did a game called Walking with Dinosaurs. So yeah, they are not combat programmers. So that could be a problem.
That's okay. I'm not like looking for something realistic with this. At least with the ones that I was thinking of, I went for something more like crazy. Let's see if it works, because they're good developers already. So I'm sure that like we can get both of their talents to work towards something new. So I'll give you my craziest one first that I just came up with, which is Pokemon goes to Valve. I was just thinking, like, even though Valve doesn't really publish games much anymore, like, it would be probably better for Pokemon not to come out quite so often as it does. So it should go to Valve, because then they'll never make another one. But
so many of our listeners are like throwing their MP3 players right now. But yeah, I could do with like Pokemon only coming out like every 3 years. Like that's fine with me. And
also they're well suited for like a bigger open world structure that they can like have like a sort of Half-Life Pokemon, and they're good at making things mature without making them disrespectable, which is what the Pokemon franchise would need. And like you could also make it more of like an RPG with like a better structure for servers, and I think like if they made it multiplayer, which Valve could definitely support, it would be like the biggest thing on like, you know, the Steam servers and everything like that. And they could also support an awesome kind of Twitch Twitch following that happened with like the original Pokemon games, where everybody was trying to control them all at once. And I think that, you know, Valve could like, you know, bring in Twitch somehow, and they're really good with those kind of social media types of things, and I think would be well suited in some respects for the Pokemon franchise, and in others would probably make it better. So.
They could do Dotamon. Think about it.
Yeah. They're so good at monetizing esports and things like that without even making a game like pay to, or without even making you pay to play the game. You know, they're free games a lot of the times, like Dota. So I think they could really learn from one another. They're different types of models and different types of games, but they could each bring their strengths instead of like, you know, both losing their strengths.
Yeah. And I kind of made a joke, but now I'm thinking about it, it's like Pokemon Dota could actually be kind of amazing.
Yeah.
People are already so competitive with Pokemon, and then taking that into the possibly most competitive type of game genre going right now. I mean, that would just be insane. Well, Angelo, did you?
So I have.
Before we start recording, you said you had one, but
I have two.
Okay.
Now. One of them is a clear phone in, though. Like,
okay, well, give us the phone in first,
here's
and then
the really
we'll
obvious
come back
one.
around.
I want Way Forward to take a stab at Mega Man.
You know, that's not phone in, because I think that's perfect.
I mean, dude, have you seen the new Shantae they just cranked out? It's pretty
No,
all right.
I mean, all their games are pretty all right.
I've always heard about those Shantae games, but I never got into them, though, Angelo. Why are they like the platformers to play?
So I don't really... Okay, so I've only seen... How do I want to explain this? Like, I tried to get a hold of the one that was on, like, Game Boy Color, and then I looked at the price tag. So that's not happening. And then this one just came out, so I haven't played it yet. And then I kind of missed the ones in between. But I've seen their animation, I've seen their art style. It's not an anime art style, but, like, they clearly have some influences from there. You know, you can definitely see that in their work. So that wouldn't be a stretch for them to do something like Mega Man, I don't think, which Mega Man in a weird way also seems to have grabbed some Western influences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's too much of a stretch to say, even though it's clearly based on like Astro Boy or whatever it was, right?
Right.
So
now that you say it, I totally see that.
yeah. The thing is, though, they can handle, like, you can just tell by looking at it, they can handle projectiles, they can handle enemy placement, they can handle modifications to the way your character explores an environment that allow them to reach things they couldn't reach before. Like, it's kind of the stuff Mega Man does. Not quite the whole Metroid thing, but close.
But that's where I've always said that Mega Man should go. Like, I feel like that's the obvious evolution for that game franchise.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be an interesting thing. And I also wouldn't be against, while we're on the topic, Retro taking a stab at Mega Man either. So, I guess now I have 2.5 picks. Retro is basically a Western dev that works for Nintendo, from what I understand.
Right.
Why do you think about Retro today?
Yeah, you're thinking of Rare, maybe?
Wait.
No, Retro, yeah, like they're... No, but he's getting ahead of us for Chrono Crossing. There's a rather big retro game release in 2002.
Little teaser.
I mean, like, what they did with Metroid Prime would maybe work for Mega Man if you're talking about that whole sort of open world-ish type explory Metroid thing. It kind of, when we did the whole, pick a game and a new direction for it, I think I came up with something
that's it. You'd gone with that.
And I didn't, it's hard to explain that stuff when you're writing it down, but like, that was kind of the idea I had, was that sort of deal. So
I think before, like, there was some sort of like dark, gritty first person shooter Mega Man that was being developed, and like that seems completely wrong to me. But yeah, if you do like Metroid Prime with like Overwatch, like graphical aesthetics, that could be pretty neat.
Dark, gritty Mega Man reboot doesn't work for Mega Man, but it might work for like a character like Zero.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also thinking like maybe they even create like a Miss Mega Man, like a Miss Pac-Man, and let like the other developer make it a more American influenced type of game versus like the regular Mega Man, which could always stay pure to its roots or something.
Or you could always just have role play instead of Rockman.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be cool to see Roll finally take a
role.
Leading role, yeah. Like, that would be pretty neat.
Did I steal the thunder from your joke? Because I'm so sorry.
No, that's it. Actually, I wasn't even going there. So it ended up being like that Austin Powers thing where it's like, don't worry, baby, blah, 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 baby. Oh, too many babies. Well, my second one is, this is a series. So like Mega Man, Angelo, that's a franchise that is in need of serious help, because it's been pretty much dormant, and I would contend that Mega Man 9 and 10 are kind of,
I like them, but they're not.
I know I'm in the minority.
They don't quite capture 2 and 3, but they're good.
But how about this Legacy Collection, though, that I got on that sale last week? It's pretty fun with those challenges and all that stuff.
I haven't gotten that.
Well, yeah, but those are just the original games. But, there just hasn't been much from that series. So, yeah, it needs a bump. This next one I picked, this series does not need any help. When you talk about pinnacles of, like, consistent perfection, like, the Super Mario franchise is that, so it doesn't need help. That being said, I'm dying for somebody else to take a stab at Mario, and I think there's no better developer to do it than Insomniac.
Yeah.
I want a Super Mario Brothers game, focus on the brothers part. By Insomniac, because I think that they do really great punchy dialogue. I think their art design is like top notch. And I'm ready to see like a total redesign of Mario. I mean, yeah, go ahead and give him the mustache and the overalls, but I want to see him done in a completely new art style. He's looked the same since like Mario Brothers 3. Like if you go back and look at like the art for Mario Brothers 3, like it's the same art that's used for New Super Mario Brothers Wii U. So, it's almost like Mickey Mouse at this point, where it's just like this house style that cannot be messed with, and I want to mess with it.
Yeah.
I want to mess with it very badly.
Just as long as you don't go dark and gritty like the movie.
Oh, no, not at all. That's why I want Insomniac to do it.
Stay far away from the movie, please.
Yeah. I mean, Ratchet and Clank is such a, whimsical, fun platform series. And I think I mean, Galaxy already kind of did it, but, you know, doing like the spheroid planets and stuff that Ratchet and Clank has done. Like, I mean, I guess we already got that with Mario Galaxy, but I'd like to see them revisit that and just
they're
go crazy with it.
I don't know. They're different, like, kinds of planets, though. I think the planets in Ratchet and Clank are a little bit bigger than the ones that there were in Galaxy, so you can kind of have a grander scale in some ways, but they have different types of platforming. There's more emphasis on weaponry in Ratchet and Clank and more emphasis on jumping and weird types of jumps in Mario, I think. So, like, both of them could definitely learn from each other. And I think that, to a great extent, Ratchet and Clank was probably influenced by Mario in general, like, just to begin with. And it's probably how it was even, like, you know, thought of in the first place. So I think the developers would just absolutely love a shot at that.
Yeah, and then, I mean, going back to, like, the Ratchet weapons, like, think of how inventive all of them are, and then think of them coming up with new Mario power-ups.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be amazing, because Mario hasn't really been doing, like, the really awesome power-ups for a while. Like, I feel like the Galaxy games, I haven't played 2, but I felt like Galaxy 1, you know, that was kind of like, it went way by the wayside, and then also, like, the new Super Mario Brothers games, where it doesn't seem to be as big a deal, where I felt like there was a time period where it was like, oh no, Mario gets some really crazy stuff. You know, starting with 3 and then, you know, Mario World and Mario 64 for sure, like just really nifty versions and powers for Mario. And then, Insomniac coming up with that stuff, I think would be really nifty.
I mean, what have we had in the last 5 or 10 years? Like the cat suit?
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, the cat suit's amazing, but more like that, please.
Yeah, more Toad suit stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love the Toad suit. I actually like it a little bit more than the Tanuki suit.
Really?
I just think it looks cooler. And I like his animations.
Yeah. You don't like that iconic stuff, I guess.
I like the Tanuki suit's amazing. It's just like I like dashing like over ground, like with the frog suit and just hopping really fast. Like I think that's really neat.
I should say you like fucking with iconic stuff, or you like you'd rather bring it down than elevate it to a point where you can't ever change it. Like you were saying.
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
No, like you were saying with like the Mario style, it hasn't changed for a really long time, and I think that the Tanuki suit goes right along with it. Like that's probably why there hasn't been as many Mario power-ups recently, because everybody always wants to power up to get the Tanuki suit, you know?
Right. And they haven't really beaten the Tanuki suit as far as like everybody remembering it and stuff like that. So it's, you know, it's almost like they gave up after that one.
Yeah. I've got a similar platformer in a similar generation that used to go up head to head against this guy for people's money, and that's Sonic. I think we have to talk about Sonic if we're talking about games that need to be given to American developers, and maybe this did happen with one of the newer entries that I haven't paid attention to, but I think that nobody gave Sonic to Rockstar yet, so I think...
What?
Oh, boy.
No.
That's probably your craziest one, Patrick. Let's be fair.
No, I mean, Sonic had an edge, let's be honest. Like, from the very beginning, he was like the more mature platformer. Like, if you wanted to go faster, if you wanted to fly farther, if you wanted to, you know, roll up into a ball, there's only one person you could do that with. And he was like, I don't know, I think he always had an edge, and then Knuckles also has an edge, and I think that Sonic Adventure was semi-open world in, like, to begin with, so, like, it might work well with, like, a Grand Theft Auto team or something like that. And no, they don't have to make it mature, but they could make a team. Like, there's nothing against Sonic making it, like, a teen game. Like, you could totally add Shadow and Eggman and stuff in it and make it really weird, like, you know, genetically modified egg baby Sonic things.
That's going to be the name of this episode.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, when you first said it, I thought that was insane, but then I was thinking, if you get the team that did Bully, like, you might have something there, because Bully has this kind of odd, like, Norman Rockwell charm to it, but at the same time still being edgy in that Rockstar way. Because, I mean, the weird thing about Rockstar to me is that they kind of can't make a game where you're playing by the rules.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of have this thing about breaking the law, because even like Smuggler's Run, it's about smuggling.
Yeah.
You know, like, they kind of just love making games about subverting the man.
Well, isn't Sonic about breaking the speed barrier?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think that Rockstar's also like renovated old franchises and bought things before, like Red Dead, right? So
yeah,
they were able to make that into a thriving franchise that everybody's clamoring over the next one for. And I think, wasn't it Final Fantasy even that made like a Red Dead Redemption art type thing when it was like about to be announced recently, the new one? There was like a red piece of art from a Japanese developer that I thought was Final Fantasy influenced, but I think that everybody's looking to them as a developer in general, so I think that it would be we'd be remiss to say that they couldn't take on a franchise that wasn't just like something like Yakuza. That would have been the easy one to probably pick, Yakuza.
Right.
But I think that this is about more making developers challenge themselves, and I think a lot of them tire out anyway, so why would you want to give them like exactly what they've already done? You want to tweak something just a little bit where people see like 30% something new to 70% that they already like, and then they'll probably give it a shot.
Yeah, and Sonic needs a lot more help than the Yakuza series, and you know, and just because somebody only works on like open world, you know, crime-based games doesn't mean that they can't come up with ideas for other genres or program to that aspect. You know, like you don't want to, it's almost like acting where you don't want to get typecast.
Right.
You know, like you will see people go from like long-standing series like that and go indie and then come up with something like totally fanciful and you know, out of the box because it's like, well, I worked on Call of Duty for 10 years, so I needed to do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so shake it up.
Yep. How are you going to shake it up, Angelo?
So, I don't know if I'm cheating, because it is a Western team. They're owned by a Japanese company.
I'll allow it, because we're actually going to get into some weird situations with the comments. So.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Eidos doesn't really exist anymore, but they made the new Tomb Raider. They're owned by Square Enix now. They just changed the name of their studio. They're essentially the same thing. Wait,
so they changed from Crystal Dynamics back to Eidos?
No, they didn't. They didn't. They're owned by Square Enix now is all I was getting at. But they're Crystal Dynamics, Eidos. They're that whole team. I want to see them, and people might even hate me for this, and I don't even know if it's going to be good, but I want to see them take a crack at Castlevania. Because, let me finish, I think Konami, before they just threw in the towel on video games, had a good idea with the direction they were taking Castlevania, but didn't quite pull it off. And this group has pulled it off. They reinvented Tomb Raider into something that's kind of relevant. And I kind of want to see
I would say extremely relevant, actually.
Yeah. I want to see them take a crack at doing the same thing with Castlevania, basically. I don't know how successful it'll be, but I'd like to see that experiment take place. You know what I mean? Like, that'd be fascinating to watch. So.
I think you could totally make the... Well, I don't think she uses this much anymore, but like a Lara Croft lasso, just like a whip for Dante or something. Whatever.
Or Alucard, or one of the... Yeah.
Or maybe finally bring Sonia Belmont out of her Game Boy black and white ghetto, because she was supposed to have a Dreamcast game and then that got canceled.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time for Sonia Belmont to have her moment in the sun. That could be cool. No, I think that's great. I don't remember if Crystal Dynamics made Blood Omen 2, but if they did, then they've only made one bad game that I can think of since Soul Reaver. And that's Blood Omen 2, because that's not a good game.
That was not the same
but
team
everything else
that worked on
I didn't think it was. Yeah. So yeah, Crystal Dynamics is secretly, I think, one of the most consistent developers. I mean, going all the way back to Gex.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say all of those Gex games were really solid. You know, they're kind of their time, and they're really hard to revisit now, except maybe the very first one, because it's just a 2D platformer.
Right.
But, and your mileage may vary with the humor, but I think that they just have always turned out excellent products. So I think them doing Castlevania, it'd be wonderful. Like, no doubt. For my final one, I don't think, like, this is going to be probably shocking to both of you and probably listeners as well, because I don't really talk about it, but I have an undying love for the Tenchu series.
Oh, I love it too, actually.
Really?
I knew Angelo did, but I didn't know Julian had anything to do with it.
I only played the first one, but I really loved it. So
Yeah. And actually, so Tenchu in Japan predates Metal Gear Solid. It came out the same year, but it came out months before. So I played Tenchu before I played Metal Gear Solid. So when I think about like the stealth action genre, like I kind of think of Tenchu first and then Metal Gear, where in America it's the other way around.
I thought it was. I played Tenchu first as well, so but that's me. I play things out of order, apparently. So.
Yeah. I think in America, Tenchu came out like a month or two after Metal Gear. I could be wrong on that. When we get to 1998 for Chrono Crossing, I'm just saying it right now, the whole episode is going to be dedicated to 1998 and Chrono Crossing because one, it's considered the greatest year of video games, and I'm kind of hesitant to refute that. And two, it's the year I graduated, so we're just doing it up big.
Aww.
But so we can do some more research into that. Yeah, Angela and I are the same age, so. It's all about the memories, man. Mm-hmm. But I had something there. I was going somewhere with that. Ah, crap.
Where'd your memory go?
98.
I don't know.
98.
I completely lost in 98. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Is yeah. So I'd have to like look back and double check. But I remember Metal Gear coming out first over here and then being swapped in Japan. I could be wrong. We'll look it up later. But anyway. Love the Tenchu series. I even bought Tenchu Z on Xbox 360 and thoroughly enjoyed that game, even though it looked like a PS2 game back in those early 360 days. Like, it's not a good looking or well made game. And that's the thing about Tenchu is that they always overreach. Like, there's more conceptually in those games than what the execution gives. Way of the Samurai is the same way, where it's like, there are a ton of good ideas here. It's just not coming together right. Tenchu 2 is probably like one of the biggest offenders of that. Like it's one of the most disappointing sequels, but I still enjoyed it. So I would give this series to Rocksteady. Makers of the Batman Arkham series. I was originally thinking about whichever team works on Assassin's Creed because they do such wonderful recreations of historic time periods and stuff like that. And I've always wanted like Assassin's Creed to go to feudal Japan. But then there's that part where I don't like the way Assassin's Creed plays, and the Batman games play so well. And I think they've got the grappling hook nailed. Because the grappling hook was like that's like the big thing in Tenchu is you use that for almost everything. And the gadgets, like basically, like the Batman, like Arkham Asylum is kind of what I always wanted Tenchu to play like anyway. So just give me that. But Tenchu, like, just give me Batman Arkham Asylum with the ninja aesthetic.
Oh man.
And, and also because like, Tenchu they're not trying to be historical. Like they go into the whole like, mythological part of Japanese lore and stuff like that. Right. So, there's magic and there's Oni and monsters and stuff like that. So I think Rocksteady has a better handle on those type of designs than like the Assassin's Creed team does, where they're always just dealing with humans in a historical setting. Like Rocksteady can do some really interesting creature designs and stuff like that.
They might not be a bad pick for Castlevania either, considering whip grappling, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, Arkham Asylum was basically a Metroid game when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Not saying that a new Castlevania has to be a Metroid style game, but that's kind of when I'm thinking of Castlevania these days, that's what I think.
Everything except for the first one kind of has at least trace elements of that in it. So. Yeah.
Patrick, did you have a last one? I know Angelo's done, but
I saved my favorite one for last. And
okay.
The only one that I actually really want to happen is Gran Turismo going to Blizzard.
Blizzard, really?
Yeah. Because I think Gran Turismo only comes out as often as a Blizzard game comes out, and Blizzard could learn, or Polyphony Digital could learn from like Blizzard's esport knowledge, because I think that the racing scene needs a good esport game, and it doesn't really have one, and it should be Gran Turismo or Forza, like whichever one really figures it out first. And I think it could be Gran Turismo if they were given to Blizzard, because Forza is more fun to play like at a glance if you're not like really big into cars, and I think that Blizzard would fix that. They not only would Polyphony learn from like that, but they'd get more esports knowledge as far as like how to scale their franchise when they need like nations following people and watching like the races. Like, how is that going to happen? Where are they going to put their cameras inside the actual tracks and stuff like that? And Blizzard has already like done all that stuff so many times and made things just like undeniably fun, and we're able to release things at around the same rate that Polyphony Digital wants to. So I think that they're like probably the best pairing that I could think of. And like, I love both of those companies, and I like all the franchises that Blizzard makes, and I really think that they could do well with a racing franchise, which they don't have as far as I know.
I like that idea, and I think of all of them, that's the one idea that we've presented that would really piss off the fan base of that game. Cause I'm envisioning like, oh, we've got Tracer behind the wheel of this BMW, or, here's, Eric Baylog and, Olag from Lost Vikings just on the sidelines, just like watching the track and stuff like that, because Blizzard is very referential with their games. And I could see that going like off the rails in the best possible way so fast. But like the hardcore like tuner heads that love Gran Turismo would be so angry.
But I think they would more put their mark on the cars in decals, and probably like the characters in the background in like like the pit or like in the stands or something like that. That's usually Blizzard's like really classy when they add things to other games. Like, they don't make it too much. Like, it's like putting Stan Lee in a game or something. They really know how to make a cameo.
I mean, they would probably more like, here's your Diablo, like, paint job for your hood or something like that. But
yeah.
I don't know. I could see that going down a slippery Blizzard slope really quick, because, like with Heroes of the Storm in particular, like I remembered, I was watching like the BlizzCon stuff, and it was like so much cross promotion between all of their games. And, here's, I forget her name, but like the big Russian girl from Overwatch was like added to Heroes of the Storm. And then there was like a special like skin added to something else, and all this stuff. And it was like, this is great because all of their games have like a kind of similar aesthetic. But yeah, when you throw it into like Gran Turismo, which is so realistic, but maybe it wouldn't be anymore. Maybe it would be like a more cartoony, for lack of a better word, art design, but still really serious with the the modding and the physics of the cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe it would have to be a new franchise name, because you wouldn't want to make it anything less than completely realistic if you're Gran Turismo, I guess. But like, it could be something that's even just like, Gran Turismo Arcade, just like there's Gran Turismo Sport or something like that. I don't know. It just seems like they have such a big opportunity with, how big NASCAR is. And I don't even like NASCAR, but like, people like to race, and people want to race in the race. They don't want to watch the racers as much as they want to be in the race. So like, esports could really like flourish with a good racing franchise, and there's not one.
Yeah, totally see that. We had a lot of comments on this one over at pixelbit.com, but most people didn't actually stick to the format, which is fine. A lot of people just submitted one, or they didn't actually do a Japanese franchise. They did like a Western franchise to a Western developer, but it's just a different developer. So, like I said, we're going to roll with it. Transmet 2033 has our first one, and he says, I have just one thought. I want NES era Castlevania to be tackled by Yacht Club. I know probably a no-brainer, but still.
Oh, I'm going to kick myself for not thinking of that. Wow.
So if you're not familiar, Yacht Club is the developer of Shovel Knight. So when you think like NES era Castlevania, that's like the perfect go-to developer for that, for sure. And Angelo, I'm sure, is like just super happy just thinking about what that could be.
I'm dreaming about either that or Mega Man right now. Either one of them handled by them would be amazing. Makes me very happy.
I feel like them working on Mega Man is a little bit too on the nose because Shovel Knight is such a love letter to Mega Man, but their art design is very Castlevania to me. Like it's a much darker color palette than Mega Man is. So I feel that's like a wonderful, melding of that for them.
Yeah, no, it's real good. That's a great pick.
Hydrean continues the Castlevania love, Angelo, and you'll appreciate this because he says he gives Castlevania to Sony Santa Monica Studios, the developers of God of War.
Oh,
he says, "I love Lords of Shadow and the spectacle of God of War. While I prefer Lords of Shadow combat to God of War, I'll be interested in seeing where this goes." And Lords of Shadow was basically them trying to God of War, the Castlevania franchise. Yeah. And I think they were largely successful, but it was missing a certain weight to the combat and just an overall polish to it that Sony Santa Monica, they're just one of the best out there, period.
Yeah.
So would love to see that.
Yeah. And the thing about Lords of Shadow is I played the first game. We played it a long time ago for Backloggers.
Yeah.
And
we did.
I was thinking, oh man, if they do a sequel to this and they clean all this up, it's going to be really, really special. They made a sequel. That was about the only part that came true. Most people think the sequel is a step down from the original, which is kind of sad. But
yeah, I was so excited with the ending of the first Lords of Shadow that I really wanted to see where it went, and then I heard nothing good about the sequel, so I just haven't played it. It's probably one that I'll pick up at some point just to try it out, but I'm not expecting much from it.
And that's an achievement in its own right. If you have a good game and you have all the assets to that game and you're going to make another game and that second game turns to shit, you've really outdone yourself.
Right. Hydrean's second choice, he says, whoever did Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge gets Star Fox. And I've got you, Hydrean. That developer was FASA Studio, which I don't know them.
No, I don't either.
They did a bunch of Mech Warrior and Mech Assault games, which is why I don't know them.
Ooh, new Mech Warrior coming now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it just got announced yesterday. No one cares.
Cool. There's some people who really care.
There are big fans of that game.
Yeah, real big. I've seen a few of them. They have whole downstairs basements with all these mechs in them that people just need to get in and play the games too. There.
He goes on to say that Crimson Skies had amazing gameplay and a great campaign/multiplayer. I'd love to see how they revitalize Star Fox. And I think that's a great idea. I played a little bit of Crimson Skies back in the store, and I've probably played about as much Star Fox, which is to say probably about 10 minutes because it never really did anything for me.
Ooh.
But I think that's a really good pairing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that. And then some of the developers from that studio went on to make Dark Void, which I think is a really underrated action game for the Xbox 360. And I think PS3 also. But
yeah, I had Crimson Skies. I didn't really care for it. But I didn't like it. I wanted to like it a lot. It's got that aesthetic I like, the kind of age of exploration / a little steampunk thrown in there. It was an RPG, but it was just never, I don't know, it might be the same thing that the BioWare effect kind of thing where it didn't really feel like the kind of RPG I'm into, if that makes sense.
Sure, that makes total sense. Which means you aren't going to like Hydrean's third choice, which is BioWare gets the Chrono series.
No, I do not like that.
No.
He says, Chrono Cross had plenty of unique characters. Unfortunately, most aren't fleshed out that well. BioWare is plenty capable of making unique and fleshed out characters. The original Star Wars KOTOR had a gameplay system that I believe would fit a new Chrono Cross. Add in a solid morale system, and I could have the game of my dreams. I've thought about this one a lot since I read his selection. Because, yeah, I think BioWare does characters second to none as far as role-playing goes. But one thing that, this is one where I'd almost want them to do, a team-up. I almost wouldn't want to give it to BioWare, whole hog, because I think their biggest their weakest area is creating environments. All the BioWare games that I've played have felt very small and stifled. Even Inquisition, which is like their big open world Dragon Age game, the environments aren't very interesting. You know, there's not, like, a lot of it seems like it's just busy work to do. Like, it's not, and this is going to be a theme later on. Like, it's just not, it's not engaging. And like Mass Effect, Mass Effect's one of my favorite games, but I'll be the first to admit that the environments are hella boring. Even Mass Effect 2 and 3, like they're very small. There's not much to do. So that would be my worry if they got the Chrono series, because one of the things that I like about that franchise is like, you feel like you're really going on a journey. And I don't know if you would get that if BioWare was working on it.
To be fair, Square Enix hasn't done a whole lot of great stuff in the way of exploration lately either.
This is true.
Yeah. I was thinking about your environmental boringness issue, and it seems to come up a lot. And I was just thinking, like, what are good environments? Like, what's the pinnacle that we're holding the environments we're calling boring up to? Because I know that they're not the best environments, but like it's like the best we got. Like in some cases, we'll see in the rest of this podcast.
I mean, I think it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like, so if we're talking modern, like I think like Rockstar does a great job of making, like, there's always something going on in a Grand Theft Auto like city. Even when you're outside of missions, like it seems there's always something going on. Same thing with the Red Dead games. If we're talking fantasy, I actually think the Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is one of the best examples of like a fantasy open world game where it feels vibrant and it feels like there's stuff happening all the time. And, I always go back to like, I think it's Bungie who was saying that like there's that 30-second loop and you have to make that really fun and then make it to where you want to do that for the whole game. Now, obviously you can't really do a 30-second loop in like a massive role-playing game because it's going to take you longer than 30 seconds to get somewhere most of the time. But I think it should feel like there's always something to do. There's always enemies to fight. There's always interesting things that don't feel, and this is a problem that I think is just, I blame MMOs on this, but it shouldn't feel like busy work. Where it's like, oh, just go, collect 10 of the thing. Because you need to go collect 10 of the thing. Like it's funny because I was playing Final Fantasy 14 with my friend today, and Final Fantasy 14 has the laziest NPCs I've ever seen in a video game, where they literally tell you to go get something for them that's 10 feet in front of them. And it's like, guys, you could have done this yourselves. Like, I understand if you need me to go kill something for you, that I can do, because you're not an adventurer like I am. But you can go 10 feet and pick up the thing. Like, why are you even asking me to do this? And why are you paying me money to do so? Like, I almost feel like it's some sort of like, yeah, go over there and bend down and pick up that thing for me. Oh, that's good stuff. Do it real slow.
All right. Yeah, I might actually have a little more to say about this when we talk about our Chrono Crossing picks, actually.
Cool. So that's it for Hydrean. Fire in the Hole comes back, and this is one of the ones, he picks a Western game and Western developer, but he says, I would want Psyonix, the developers of Rocket League, to make a new Twisted Metal game.
Nice.
The physics and controls for Rocket League are perfect, similar to controlling an RC car, and having those controls in a Twisted Metal game would be really fun. I bought Twisted Metal Black for PS4 and I was playing it recently. The controls in the game make it hard to go back to. Oh, interesting. Even the game mechanics of the boost and the fact that the cards can jump would migrate very well. I like the Twisted Metal games for the interesting characters and seeing their endings, so having it play like Rocket League would be awesome. I totally agree with that. I'm surprised that he feels it's hard to go back to Twisted Metal Black, because when I played Rocket League, that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, these cards control like Twisted Metal Black, and I love every bit of it. Because like the way that you're like turning in midair and just like, stopping on a dime or turning on a dime, like it all feels so perfect. So yeah, you throw some machine guns in there and, throw in some ice balls and what have you, like get some power ups. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. I'm still salty at Twisted Metal because I mailed in my mail-in thing for the PS2 that was supposed to give me a free copy of Twisted Metal Black, and I still haven't gotten it. So I'm anti-Twisted Metal.
You should just go ahead and buy it because it deserves your money, because it's an excellent car combat game. That's the only one we have from Fire in the Hole. Same thing from Darth Hater, who says, long-time listener, first-time commenter. So welcome aboard, Darth Hater. We appreciate you coming over to Pixelbit and commenting. He says, for my stage select pick, I would like to see Ready at Dawn make a new Siphon Filter game. The Order, 1866 was gorgeous, and I liked the game, even though it seems a lot of people didn't. I, for one, did. That's me talking. The Siphon Filter series was a lot of fun. I'm curious, what it would look like updated for the PS4 with visual and gameplay enhancements. Again, Western developer working on another Western game, but, different developer. And I think the Order was great. Well, great's a strong word. I like the Order. I would be concerned about them working on a Siphon Filter game because I do feel that the weakest part of the Order was the shooting.
Yeah.
And Siphon Filter's strength, I think, was the shooting. Like, even back to that first game, like, there was something really fun about running and gunning in that game. And I don't know if they would be the perfect, like a great fit for that. But I know Ready at Dawn also did a lot of really good PSP games, like the God of War games. And I think they did, was it Daxter? So they've got a lot of, range in that studio. So I think they could do a good job of it. Again, the shooting in the Order makes me a little concerned.
Well, maybe if you import the assets from Siphon Filter, you could just use whatever numbers they had generated for like the sensitivity on the shooting, and like when you touch the command on the controller, how often it's going to or how much it's going to make you move to the sides and stuff like that. Maybe that would make their games better, because that's definitely the worst part of the Order, and it's why I stopped playing the Order, why I dislike that game, and why I wouldn't want them to take it on in that way. But like, if you were talking about the way I was talking about, like making two developers come together where both strengths are eventually accentuated on the final product, then it would be fine,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Our only response from Twitter comes from our buddy Bob over at the TNB podcast, who you can find on Twitter at BG Bronson. Originally, he just gave Berserk to a bunch of different developers because he's got a problem right now, and he needs an intervention, because like it's literally all he thinks about all the time these days. But he says if not Berserk, he would give Gundam to BioWare, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to Rocksteady, and Ninja Scroll to Visceral Games, who were the developers of Dead Space. Again, not quite in the range of what I was saying. Like, those are like, like anime IP, not game IP. But again, like, I mean, there's plenty of Gundam and JoJo games, and like a Ninja Scroll video game would be pretty tight. Yeah,
so I would play that. I
wouldn't mind. Like, I think all of those are great picks.
Yeah, but if we're doing an anime game, I wouldn't go Ninja Scroll first. I would go like a Cowboy Bebop game first.
Oh, sure. Although there was a Cowboy Bebop game and it was pretty bad.
Really?
It was for PS1. I played it before I'd seen Cowboy Bebop, and I was like, this is a bad game. So yeah, that is going to do it for this edition of Stage Select. We're not going to do Stage Select for next episode because we're getting into the end of the year. And I also don't quite know what our recording schedule is going to be like. I meant to ask these guys before we started if we can even record on the 20th, because that's like Christmas week. But regardless, our next episode, whenever we record that, is going to be our State of the Gaming Union address for 2016. So we're actually going to be just talking about
Final Fantasy,
how we feel about this generation so far. If there's been any changes, what we think of the future and stuff like that. So it'll be like the older format of Nerds Without Pants for this next episode, where we have a topic and then Consumption Junction. So we'll also put a pin in Chrono Crossing for the next episode.
No homework.
Not for this one. So we will let you know in that episode probably, or it might be the episode after, when we resume like our normal like show format, and then we'll get some new Stage Select picks, which I think it'll be Angelo's turn. Yeah. So be thinking about that, Angelo. You've got some time.
I have one, but okay.
Excellent. Just put a pin in it. And put a pin in this podcast, because we will be right back with some Consumption Junction.
Nice. Get another drink or something.
Do you need another drink?
I could. I wanted to show you this drink, though. Can you see? I'm not sure if you can see my video right now.
Yeah, I see it.
good.
Oh, because I just see, like, this thing on the bottom of my screen going like this. The PK.
Oh, no, you're coming in clear.
Okay. I got one of these.
What is it?
Oh, Jones Cola?
The orange
Wiz's Energizing Elixir. Final Fantasy Edition Jones Cola.
Oh.
Oh, that's cool.
Is that a chocobo on it?
Yeah, it's a chocobo right in the middle.
Nice.
And it says
Oh, I need to find that.
That needs
I know,
to...
it was the last one at my Target, and I got it yesterday. It was a week after it came out. I've never seen one in the wild.
I've never, I can't even think of them doing something like that for a Final Fantasy game here. Like, in Japan, they do stuff like that for every game. But
yeah,
that's pretty cool. I need that bottle.
Halo over here, like Mountain Dew.
Oh, yeah, but I mean Final Fantasy.
I think there was a potion for 13 or something. It was blue. Maybe that was just...
Oh, they did release that over here, because I didn't think it was going to come out over here. I never got one.
Yeah, because it was such limited quantities, and same for this, right? But I don't even know if I should open it. I was going to talk about it on the podcast. I'm like, should I drink it on the podcast? Should I just never open it? I mean, it was $3 as it is, and you know the price is going to go up, but...
I would drink it and keep the bottle. That's if I can get my hands on one, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. You should probably look on eBay now, but, like,
Right.
I use so many elixirs in Final Fantasy 15 that I'm probably going to need to drink a real one. And this is as far as I can get to it. Like, hundreds of elixirs probably I've used. But on the back it says, it's called Wiz's Energizing Elixir, and it says, Wiz creates this tonic in small batches in the basement of his Chocobo post, and only sells this secretive soda to those in the know. And considering you're holding a bottle in your very hands, you must already know that. Lucky you! 2 servings of Gishel greens in each bottle.
Nice.
I always said Geisal greens until that game. I'm like, oh, I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
Oh, I didn't know how to say it.
I thought it was Gishal,
as they said it.
like a Gishal.
They say Gissel greens in 15. I was like, okay.
Nice. I was actually, as I was saying it, I was like, wait, am I going to get corrected? So,
No, because, I've been saying Ifrit all my life, and now it's Ifrit.
Right, right. I've been saying Ifrit, too. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I said Ifrit. I said Ifrit until I played a translated version of Tales of Fantasia, and the characters vocalize with a heavy Japanese accent, but in English. Like, in the game, which is kind of crazy for an SNES game that has, like, vocals, but, they said Ifrit. Like that. So I was like, oh, that's how it's pronounced. I also see it translated often as spelled Efreet. Because he is a god in some pantheon. Like that's a thing. Like a lot of the stuff Final Fantasy summons come from different mysticisms and stuff. Yeah. So now how do you say the king of all dragons? Because that's how I say it. Am I wrong?
Or no, I say Bahamut.
Bahamut.
But then I've seen Bahamut or Bahamut. I think they say Bahamut in a lot of the Final Fantasy games. And I was like, no.
I don't know why they say that. It should be like Bahamut. And I think, like, just like Gishel greens is Gishel greens. It's not Gishal greens. Like, everything that... Yeah, okay, I took, like, a lot of English and Spanish classes in college at these really lofty places where these teachers are highly regarded and stuff. And what they said was, if there's not, in Spanish at least, and in all romantic languages, if there's not an accent on some other syllable besides the second to last syllable in the word, you should accentuate the second to last syllable. So it should be Gishel Greens, not Gishal, or it should be Ifrit, not Ifrit. But if it was spelled E-F-R-E-E, like the E-E is an E, like, so like they're not spelling it right if they want us to say it that way.
Yeah, and also if you were trying to go like and pronounce it like a Japanese person, it would be Ifrit, because they pronounce the I as an E, like always.
Oh.
So it wouldn't be Ifrit, it would be Ifrit. So
Weird.
That's wrong too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess pronunciation doesn't really matter in the end, but it matters if you're talking to somebody and they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is that when I hear people not pronounce it as chocobo, I get really angry.
What do they say?
Well, my best friend says chocobo, and I've heard other people go chocobo.
I used to say
like,
chocobo.
No.
Ew.
Seriously. Well, okay.
Chukubu.
Chocobo. Didn't know. Just didn't know. I was just guessing.
That, like, chocobo's the easiest word to pronounce.
Probably is. I will find a way to screw it up, sir.
I mean, I can see why she says chocobo, because it's like chocolate.
Yeah.
You know. But even so, I've always said chocobo. But you know, I just found that Dan Reichert always thought it was Bubble Lead on Mega Man 2, not Bubble Lead. And I'm like, that's crazy.
I've heard both.
It's
I've heard
Bubble
both
Lead.
of that, too.
I've never heard Bubble Lead.
I don't even know what that is.
Mega Man.
It's one of the weapons from Mega Man 2.
Oh, yeah, I just played it a little bit with my new Legacy collection, and it plays so much better, actually, than with the controller if you play it with an arcade stick.
What?
I can see that.
I was able to, like, beat one of the bosses, like, right away with an arcade stick, and I couldn't with the controller. It was awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that, though. I just don't think I could. Like, I don't think my
That's the
brain
whole
would
reason
allow
I
me
got
to
it,
do
though.
that.
I wanted to play it with that arcade stick. It's so much more fun that way. That's why I got, I don't know, we're not doing, we're not talking about what games we've been playing, are we?
No, we are. When we come back from this break, yeah.
Okay. Then I'll tell you in a second.
Okay. Is this stuff that you're going to have to, like, disassemble when you're done with it, Angelo?
No, I put it together once, it stays in the box. There's actually a cutout in the box for it to stay in, because otherwise I would not be doing this right now.
Okay, I was about to say.
If I can get this off the table, my wife might not kill me. So, how much of this is going to go in the show?
I don't know.
You haven't decided yet?
Some of that stuff was really good. It might end up at the end. I am going to put the cup noodle ad.
Oh no, don't
in here if I can find it on YouTube. It's so terrible.
I can't believe
it made
that.
me so angry.
That made me angry just watching. I didn't watch it with the audio on, and I watched it.
Oh no, you need to watch. No, you need to watch with the audio
Angry
on
enough.
because they read it like a commercial. Like it's like listening to an ad for Squarespace on a podcast.
That's tragic.
And like even knocked at the end, it's like, you know, like prompted was like I love those noodles or like I can't get enough of those noodles, and then knocked is like, neither can I.
It's like they're hamming it
It's like
up.
he doesn't. They're totally hamming it up.
So is it amazing?
No,
Okay.
it's infuriating.
Good, because I was infuriated.
Yeah. You know, and I can I'm not one of those people who's like anti-product
Sure.
placement. Like if I'm watching a movie and like someone drinks a Coke, I would rather them drink a Coke than drink something that's obviously a Coke that they just like change the label of. Because to me it's like, okay, yeah, Coke is a
Right.
thing in our world.
Yep.
But when it's a fantasy world like Final Fantasy, like no, I don't need them to be using Coleman brand like camping equipment, and I don't need them to be eating cup noodles and talking about how awesome cup noodles are.
Man, it just sucks.
Mm-hmm. And again, like if it had been Coca-Cola, I might have given it a pass because there's a long-standing history with Final
Sure.
Fantasy and Coke in
There was
Japan.
those big ads.
Like- Yeah, I actually have my friend from Japan that lives in Japan sent me the Final Fantasy X little figurines with the Coke ads.
Oh, nice.
They're awesome. Yeah, I meant to take pictures of those to show you.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't have them all, but I've got most of them.
Nice.
Got Seymour holding up a Coca-Cola bottle cap.
Seymour from 10?
Yeah.
I need to see this.
All right. So, Angelo, I know, so I've got a lot of games that I've played since the last episode, but I know what's going to happen in this edition of Consumption Junction. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and let you, do you. So that you can get out of our way.
It's all right. So you guys talked a lot about comic books last time I heard you when I listened to the show.
I like comic books.
Yeah. So I've been playing Grand Kingdoms, which I've already talked about a lot, and I'm still playing it. I will talk about that a little bit. But
so, is there a light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes.
You've been playing it for a while.
Yep.
Are you closing in on the end, or?
I don't know. I know there's an end to the story, and then you can just play the online as much as you want. One thing I did do, and I kind of regret doing this, is I was just looking for some basic answers on things, and there are some things you need to know about the game. So there's your two basic attack stats. There's only one class that uses both. It is the Dragon Mage, because it has a strength attack, because the dragon beats the crap out of things. But she also casts spells. So that particular class needs both magic and strength. All the other classes need one or the other. Which one do you think the medic would use?
Magic.
Guess which one the medic uses?
Strength.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's all sorts of wonky.
So it makes sense when you consider that the way she distributes her potions is by putting them in glass bottles and whipping them at things.
So she needs strength to throw them further.
That's the idea, and they do more damage somehow the harder she throws them, even though it's really the explosions and things that are doing the damage. But video games, gentlemen. So
it's physics.
There's a few quirky things like that. It's kind of hard to sort of divine out what stats are important for what character. So I went to a Discord group, which is, I guess, what the kids are doing these days when they need answers, because Game FAQs didn't have what I was looking for, and YouTube is not where I want to get that information from. I just want an answer. I don't want to watch a 15-minute video. So somebody was way too helpful. Not spoilery helpful, but they got into people break this stuff down and they can tell you exactly how the sausage is made. I didn't want to know how the sausage was made. Things that were interesting to me and that I thought worked one way were kind of unimportant, and it's just oh. So I'm just now ignoring some of that and playing the game the way I want to play it.
Sure.
And I figure when I want to go online and contribute in the war part of it, then I will maybe go back and then build my characters that way, because the characters are very flexible, and you can there's even certain scrolls where you can completely redistribute their stat points without rolling them all the way back to level 0. So that's kind of cool.
It sounds like the type of game where you could get infinitely lost in min-maxing every character.
You really can. And I don't want to be the guy who's playing the game online and screwing everything up because I didn't, stat my characters correctly.
Right.
I don't even want to tell people stuff because just go do the game. You do the game the way you want to do the game, and then later on figure out all the stuff, and then you go, oh, I thought that mattered that I was doing. No, but you had fun, right? Well, yeah. So do it. That kind of thing.
It's sort of like my best friend's sister when they were playing Final Fantasy XI. Mm-hmm. She played a red mage, and she would only sub job a monk. Which, if you play any mage class, you know that the best thing to sub is another mage class because more magic points and blah blah blah. But she wasn't having any of that. She's like, no, I'm a level 30 red mage, level 15 monk, and it's all right, if that's the way you want to play that game,
you want to be a mage that punches things dead in the face.
Yes,
that sounds awesome, actually.
It does, but unfortunately, as you remember, Final Fantasy XI doesn't really work that way. What you end up with is a really watered down red mage and a really watered down monk. So
yeah,
but
I
think you should have the freedom to do that.
Technically speaking, in the magical world, I feel like a monk and a mage should be able to coexist or have a baby.
They can.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that baby will be a bard and will be absolutely useless.
Womp womp.
Sorry. Yes.
So there's things that the game straight up fakes, and it fakes them so convincingly that you think they're real. And I don't want to tell people that they're not real because it's way more fun to believe that they're fake. It's like, go ahead and believe in Santa Claus for as long as you possibly can.
She really moans like that. It's
yeah. All girls do that. Anyway, so I did play some board games that I want to talk about.
Shoot.
One of them was Zombicide Black Plague, which I don't own this game. This was one that one of the owners of one of the stores I go to brought out. And he's actually like a professional. Like, they've won contests for painting their miniatures. And their miniatures are amazing. Like, they're the ones where you look at it and it looks like they're actually like standing there posed on a pile of dirt, swinging a sword that's got like appropriate looking like blood and chips on it and stuff. Just, they spend days working on just one of these tiny figures. They're outstanding. So he was painting all these, and it's a dungeon crawler. That plays a lot. It's, you're beating up zombies, but it's medieval zombies. That's why it's Black Plague. It's like in that sort of time. So it's crossbows and swords and axes and spears versus like a wave of zombies, and you're just going in there and mowing them down, and it's kind of a blast. One of the neatest things about this game is it has a big plastic dashboard that each character gets. And I kind of wish I had it to show you because it has all these slots in it and little peg holes. And so as you gain levels, you move the peg up and it shows you what your new stats are and what your new abilities are. And then your backpack is slots that are carved into it, like 5 slots for 5 inventory slots that you actually just put cards in that stand up. It's a really neat little thing. Like, you have a cardboard insert for the character you're playing as and little other inserts for what he has in his right hand, what he has in his left hand. So all these things are cards that you slot right into this plastic dashboard, and it's pretty neat, I thought. Your experience is tracked by a slider that goes across the bottom of it. Just a really nice little component. And the game itself is fun and pretty simple as long as you have somebody running it who knows what they're doing. Because then they can tell you, you don't have to worry about necessarily all the nitty gritty. Like, okay, these zombies goes here because they're attracted to noise and this person made more noise. And, these zombies go here because there's something shiny over there and they like bright, shiny things. So, as long as somebody's familiar with that and running the game real well, the rest of you can just run around hacking things to pieces and it's a lot of fun. That's Black Plague. Star Realms is one that you can get. It's a card game that you can get for free on Steam right now and forever. I'm not even kidding. Go do it. I've used the term deck builder a lot and on the show, and maybe you kind of aren't familiar with what exactly that is. Star Realms is a pure deck builder.
What's Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars.
Yes,
a Star Wars
Star
deck
Wars.
builder I would play. That sounds good. So what it is there's a deck of cards that comes out. Everybody starts with the same. You and your opponent. It's usually a duel, but you can play up to 4 if you have 2 decks. So you and your opponent are on opposite sides, and you start with the same hand of cards. In this case, it is 4 scouts. There's 8 scouts and 2 vipers, so it's 10 cards. Each time you draw 5. Scouts give you 1 coin, which is how you buy new stuff off the market. Vipers just do damage, and eventually you want to cycle these bad cards out of your deck because you're going to get cards that give you, instead of maybe 1 coin, they give you 3 coins. Instead of 1 damage, maybe they give you 5, and then they do crazy stuff like some of them are bases that stay out on the board, and your opponent has to destroy those before they can actually damage you. And all this is stuff that's out and that you're openly looking at with your competitor, hoping, please don't buy that because I really want that for mine. And they might think, well, that doesn't really work with the combinations I'm going for in this deck that I'm building here, but it'll sure screw him over if I pull that out from underneath him. So that's kind of how a deck builder works. And this is probably one of the most refined ones. Really, really well balanced. People do tournaments with it. In fact, there's going to be one at one of the game stores I'm going to try and participate in if I get a chance. But that's, if you have time, just head on over to Steam and look up Star Realms and play it. You'll get the hang of it in a couple of rounds or a couple of games, and that's a deck builder.
So this is a computer-based card game?
So this is a physical card game. Like, I have the deck of cards, but you can go online on Steam, and what the Steam version gives you is the first section of the campaign, which is not available in the physical version. The physical version is just dueling. but it is, certain weird tweaks and rules and things that happen where, you're playing with this and they're playing with this. Maybe you have less health than they do, but there's different things you can do that make their health go down quicker, or you start with better cards, like different weird things like that. It starts with an easy AI that you can fight one-on-one against, so just playing the regular game. And I believe it actually comes with the ability for you to play online, just without paying anything. You can buy expansions, which are extra cards that go into the game. You can buy the full game, which I think gives you the full scope of AI and maybe makes online matchmaking different. I don't know. I haven't messed with the online matchmaking yet. But it's free to try for sure and play. I have not bought the full version yet, but I probably will. Because it's a really good game. Like, it is a game where I will go to the store and then just play against people. Even though I played this game a million times, it's holding up really, really well. So,
nice.
Lots of fun. Think of it as like Magic, but every single time you play, you just build your deck as you're playing the game. That kind of thing. Real neat. And you don't have to pay to put things out. Like, once a card comes in your hand, you just put it out. Like, there's no casting cost or anything weird like that. You will pay for the cards once to get them from the market and then just use them every time they come up. So, last one's Conan. Anybody who's into board games has probably heard about Conan. It was a very early Kickstarter game and it finally came out. And if you are into minis and skirmish style games, boy oh boy have I got a game for you.
Minis as far as
miniature figurines. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this game comes with a metric crap load of miniatures. Like, 2 boxes, like, I can't give you the dimensions, bigger than board game boxes that I own, is what most of the Kickstarter backers got. 2 boxes full of, like, boards and cards and miniatures. It is insane. And it's really nice because the people that are into miniatures gaming, like, for me, I could kind of take or leave miniatures. I'm kind of more a mechanics guy. And that isn't me trying to be pretentious or anything. I still like a good theme on my games, but miniatures I can kind of take or leave, mostly because I can't paint. I think if I could paint, I'd be more into them. But they are like the freaking original comics and stories come to life. It's not based off the movies. It's based off the original comics, like the old original comics and the old original books, which means you're getting some pretty mature content in here, Actually, if you've seen the movie, it's not like, it's not a franchise for children. So.
Yo, that MMO had boobies in it.
Yeah, pretty much. And so does this game. So keep that in mind. I don't judge. I played the game. It was, solid, it was real fun. And Conan comes on the board and whoever's playing the Dungeon Master goes, oh crap, because he just destroys everything like Conan does. Literally, Conan can walk up to a hut and just kick a hole in the wall and crawl through it. It's fantastic. So there's one person who basically plays all the bad guys, and then everybody else plays either Conan or one of his helpers. And there are things that Conan's helpers can do that Conan can't. Like, Conan doesn't use magic. He just hits things till they die. He's very good at that. but that's Conan. Meanwhile, if you have something that just needs like a magical type solution to it, or if you just have the hankering for a good old fashioned fireball, that's not really what Conan does. But there are casters that do that and that sort of thing. So, not really a whole lot to say about that, except that it delivers. Oh, I will say this. Maybe one of the worst rule books I've ever seen. But they have said that they're going to reprint the rule book. Like, they have realized their folly and they're going to fix it, which I appreciate when a company will do that, especially if something's kickstarted.
So did you hear the lamentations of their women?
Someone did. I wasn't playing the manager of the bad guys. So,
guys, women are funny. Guys.
You're funny, Wendy. Get over it.
So that's it for me. I mean, you had your comic book moment. Now I had my tabletop moment. And I don't know if I've caught on, but I'm actually punching a whole bunch of games while we're doing the show. I'm done now. But, I was punching them out of the cardboard, so I'll have more to talk about later, including a game that I've literally been waiting on to come out for years since it was released in Japan. So that's kind of cool.
Well, speaking of comics,
go for it. I'm done.
I don't think I talked about this yet, and I just finished the graphic novel for the first volume of Lucifer, and that's an old-running Vertigo franchise that a lot of people have probably heard about. Some people have only seen that there's a TV show called Lucifer and are misinformed. And that's actually the reason I wanted to bring it up. Because Lucifer is a really good graphic novel that's based on the Sandman novels. He's like the Lucifer from that storied franchise that Neil Gaiman made, but this is by Mike Carey, who also made the Unwritten stories, which I've talked about in earlier episodes, if you remember them. If you don't, the Unwritten's about a bunch of storytellers and characters of an artist who have gotten trapped, and they all got to get out, but the Unwritten has like its own 50-issue arc that spun out of a spin-off that, I don't know, it's all very well written, and I'm not sure how Lucifer got made from this, and the whole reason I wanted to say this, Julian, is like, people who watch TV shows just need to not watch them sometimes, because I saw even just like the commercials, and it was just so corny that I couldn't even believe it, and it just like makes me hate like the people who put these things together, because it's the same thing with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other like Arkham or whatever. Like I fall off so fast because the quality's so bad, and it's like this quality is I don't even know where they got the stories from, like just the Lucifer trailers that I saw, because they're nothing near what I read in the first graphic novel, which was amazing storytelling and made me think like, yeah, Lucifer is like a figure that I could be or something. Like, in the right circumstances, I probably would have fallen from grace from God and started the first revolution ever. Like, when I read this book, I felt for Lucifer and stuff. And I did not feel that at all, or even see a remotely similar plot line in, like, the TV show that I just watched the trailers of, admittedly, but no one really liked in general.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, I think there's some comic properties where they literally just want the name and, like, the core concept and then kind of want to do whatever with it.
That's this.
And then there's other ones where it's like they have to, they want to stay real true to what it is. And yeah, you never kind of know. I do feel that it's like the smaller indie franchises where that's usually where they just kind of want the name and the concept and then run with it.
Why is that? I mean, there's a reason those indie franchises were something to begin with, and why someone took a chance on them. Like, if they're gonna try to rewrite the whole thing, why just not give it a new name?
I think it could be a couple things. I mean, I think part of it is, there is a name that has recognition, and it's probably like a really good, like, jumping off point for whatever they want to do. If you wanted to do like, hey, this is a show about the devil that I want to do. Okay. But if you say like, oh, well, there's this like long historied like comic book that we're basing it off of, then you've got like, you can sell that to people a little bit better, especially right now.
Yeah. Especially
but
if
then
you write it the same way and just don't change anything.
Right. But then other things, it's like, you have to stay close to that source material. Like, I don't think The Flash would be as successful a TV show for the CW if they weren't saying like, nah, we're going to make an effing comic book like in live action on this series every week. It's unabashedly faithful to the material. I mean, obviously they deviate, to tell their own story and stuff like that, but that's a Flash TV show. You can't get around it. But other things you can kind of be, like even Walking Dead, like, the first couple seasons of Walking Dead are not the comic book, like, by any means. But then eventually they do start mimicking the bigger arcs of the show, or of the comic book later on. Like, I stopped watching after season 2, but I know they go to the jail, they end up like in the real idyllic neighborhood that's kind of walled off, and kind of protected and everything. So they hit those bigger beats, but, you know, at least at the beginning, they're like, no, it's the name. And we have some of the characters, but they're not written the same way as they were in the comic book, but it doesn't matter because it's successful.
Yeah, but that, like, Walking Dead was close enough for me to stay on for 3 or 4 seasons. It still got to be so long-winded that I couldn't, like, keep track of the characters that were supposed to be dead and are still alive, or, like, I couldn't stick with it because they were on the farm so long, and I got to the prison, but after that, there were so many, like, mid-season finales and shit that I was just like, there's other good content that's original on TV that I can watch. Like, even stuff that's not original, but still good original content in its own right, like Game of Thrones, is just so much more well-made than that. I had to stop because it was just like the same story over and over again. It's just Rick going, Coral! Come on, Coral! And now he's even gonna get written off, so, like, no one even cares about Walking Dead because everyone's gonna die in a Game of Thrones way that, like, no one likes. You can do it and you can kill all the main characters and stuff like Game of Thrones does, but you can't do it in a way that makes people wait, like, half a year just to see, like, their favorite character die. I know people didn't like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the reason, like, this last season of Game of Thrones, I jumped off because I'm like, all right, there's literally no point in being attacked or finding any of these characters interesting because they're all up for grabs and they're all kind of not, like, great people anyway. And, like, I'm just kind of out. So I told my girlfriend, like, the next season she can watch by herself.
No!
I made a lot of people mad because I read half of the first book and was like, okay, this guy's entire formula is meet character, make sure person really likes character, immediately kill character. And I'm like, this is not a ride I want to go on. You know, that was just, so I did. I never do the first book and quit.
In his defense, though, I want to defend you and him in different ways. Like, yeah, I don't want to read those books after seeing the show because they're not that different, at least not originally. Like, I read the whole first book, or most of it, and noticed, like, every single chapter seemed like taken from an episode of the book. But on the other side of it, like, Shakespeare killed way more people than Game of Thrones ever did, and it happened way quicker. So I think
that's different, though. It really is.
It's literature.
My thing with the Game of Thrones stuff is that, and I approach it almost like from a pro wrestling booker aspect, where it's like, there's still more conflict here that you could have mined. There's still more story here to tell, but you squashed the rivalry too quickly, and you just took this character off the board when there were some really interesting things. Like, it's like, oh, this is a really big change for this character. I wonder they're dead.
Yeah.
So, but never mind. I'm never going to find out.
That's part of what makes it unpredictable and great, though. Like, you know there are other stories to tell, and that's what makes you feel for them in such ways you haven't felt about, like, the deaths of characters and other properties, because it's like, most of the time when people die, like, everything's exhausted and it's near the end of the storyline, and like, oh yeah, it needs to end somehow, why not kill somebody? But, like, in this, it's like they were so young, it could have been, you know, so much more to it, and it makes you really feel for the death of something, and I think it hits, like, the base of what it is to be human in a lot more ways because of it.
Well, but my only thing that I would say to that is that it's become it's been so unpredictable, and now it's become predictable.
Oh.
So, you know, like by what was it, season 5 or 6 that just finished?
6.
6? Okay, so it's like, yeah, I was in that season, I was like, oh, okay, this is just how, okay, I get this, I get it now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is how it is. So, yeah, these characters are probably safe until the last season. The rest of these, no, they're probably going to go at shocking times, but not really all that shocking. So, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'd be sad, like, if Brienne finally dies, or, because I think she's one of the ones on the chopping block, because she's just that right type of, like, beloved character that isn't integral to the plot, you know, or Bronn, or, you know, some of those other characters, but,
even Sam,
you know, it's like,
maybe.
Yeah, and it's like, but yeah, you know, like Tyrion and Daenerys and, like, you know, like they're gonna stick around, and then they'll probably by the farm, like maybe in the last couple episodes or something, or they might make it to the end. But I don't really care.
They should just have they should just end that like anime style, where like, and then the whole world blew up. The end. That's it.
Right.
Game of Thrones. Hope you like the ride.
Deus Ex Machina.
And then they cut to Tyrion in a hospital, like looking at the, like broken body of like one of the female characters, and then he masturbates, and then that's the end.
Except he already had like andro legs, and now he's not even a half man anymore. He's a full man.
Over the wall is just this giant face sculpture in the middle of an ocean.
Looks like Trump.
There you go. Looking up in the sky.
Everybody morphs into this like amorphous blob, and it absorbs everything, and just
it's like Neon Genesis at the end.
Yep. There you go.
Anime's weird, y'all.
Everything becomes one.
Anime, not even once. Okay, so that's a joke. I love anime.
Since the last episode, I picked up, like, there was actually some good, like, Black Friday digital deals. So I ended up picking up, like, Hitman for Xbox One, and I picked up Overwatch finally for PS4, and I got Batman, the Telltale game for PS4. But there's really one thing that trounces all of those, and I think it's going to be the only thing, really, that we talk about for the rest of this consumption junction. So Patrick, tell me about Final Fantasy 15, because you are done with it. Well, you're not done with it, but you finished the story.
What do you mean? I've only been playing Fallout. Fuck last year.
Lies.
Final Fantasy's the shit. Oh, it's so good.
Now you guys are going to behave yourselves, right?
I'm letting Patrick go.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just going to hyperbolically state why it's the best Final Fantasy ever until Julian just gets so mad where he interrupts me.
I'm gonna be good.
He might not
it
be
is the
only one who
best
gets mad
Final
if you go there.
Fantasy. It's definitely the best Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, if you're going to argue since 12, maybe we can talk, because that would be 13, basically, that you're saying it's better than.
It's definitely better than 13.
There you go. I'll give you that.
It's
definitely better than 12.
No.
Yep.
I disagree. I think 12 does everything that 15, well, not everything. The stuff that 15 purports to do, 12 already did it, and better in almost every regard.
What?
The combat system is deeper. The world is more interesting. It's an open world.
I don't like those two things as much. I mean, maybe that's just personal preference, but
It's gotta be, because I would much rather, like, put a plan into action and worry about status ailments and debuffs and buffs and strategy than hold down a button until I win.
Okay, I don't like how you press O a lot of the time and just win, but I think
that's the combat, though, Patrick.
No, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of different buffs and ailments that you need to put on sometimes. Like, if there were a level quest cap, like there's going to be after this holiday DLC, I think you'd like it a lot more if that's what you're worried about. But, I mean, I feel like I've exploited all those RPGs in a way that made it so, like, I don't really die in any of them. So, I mean, I didn't have a problem that I didn't die in this game, except for when it wouldn't let me, it literally sometimes would not let me heal myself. Like, it wouldn't let me.
Yeah, because sometimes stuff straight up doesn't work in this game.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, that warp strike that they, they keep advertising about. Yeah, a lot of times that just doesn't work.
How?
Like,
what do you mean?
No, sometimes it just glitches out completely, especially in the last part of the game. Chapter 13 never should have happened. You haven't gotten there yet, but like,
yeah, I'm in chapter 9 right now for everybody.
But like, thank God you haven't. Yeah. At first, I was like, oh, this looks like Final Fantasy VII. It's so good, and it's the most Final Fantasy VII like Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy VII, for sure. there's a lot of different like Shinra sort of atmosphere to it at the end of the game, but in addition to that, like a lot of like the more blue aspects of the game, like in terms of color, as well as like how the open world structured, it to me feels like more like 7 than anything else that I've played since then. But the only thing that I can think even came close to it was like 10, and 10 to me, I didn't really care about like the combat as much as I did in 15. Although, like, I really don't like how the sphere grid structure doesn't let me like make my own characters unique, and I wish this sort of feels like Persona 4 versus Persona 4 Golden, because in Persona 4 you can only control the main character, versus Golden where you get all 4 of them and you can slow it down to passive time battle and you can make sure everyone does exactly what you want. Well, in this one, you only get to control Noctis, and he's definitely my favorite protagonist in all of the Final Fantasy games, probably combined. Cloud was my favorite before this, and he like easily is better than Cloud.
You millennials,
I played 6 now. I played 6 at this point. It's not that good.
See, this is why we can't, at that point, it's like I have to just get up and walk away.
I just feel like anybody who says 6 is the best and always will be the best is just, like, harboring themselves inside of a nostalgic, like, hole and, like, can't get out of, like, what games have become. In some ways, they're a lot worse. Like, it's way more fun to be in the item menus and stuff and debuffing shit in number 6 than it is in 15. But the graphics and side quests and like the characters and the development of the story in general, and like the way that you face some of these bosses and the way that some of them end in Final Fantasy 15 and the general story structure are like unprecedented to me in terms of the way that they're polished. It's just like I never could have expected a game that was like this good in the Final Fantasy franchise based on what 13 was. And 14 even like was good, but I never thought it would be like that in a single player game, which they kind of made with 15. It's like simulating an MMO in a lot of ways, which is why a lot of people hate those like Catch 10. There's not even a Catch 10 quest. They don't make it really that crazy, but when they do make you catch like 5 frogs or something for somebody or find 5 of these enemies, they're all like together, and it didn't bother me as much as it's bothering some people online. And I guess as far as the combat's concerned, you might not like that, but if you get past that, to me, like when you're warping around everywhere, like the general idea of it, like a sword that has like magic in it that warps you to wherever you throw it is just crazy and awesome and something I can't believe nobody thought of. And it makes like swords viable in like a new world and like a reason to keep them because they're like the source of magic and like the thing that you throw at an enemy in order to warp to them. And it's just like, yes, this makes so much sense. Yeah, so I died a couple times because my camera was terrible. There were a lot of different enemies and it was going a lot faster than they're used to. It did feel a lot like The Witcher would feel if it had like more enemies on the screen, I think, or like if it was like Final Fantasy before it was The Witcher. It took like parts of all of the different favorite franchises I've had in the last couple of years and put them together. It had Metal Gear Solid with the stealth and open world feel. It had Dark Souls with the combat when you were trying to press square a lot and trying to dodge out of things. You could say that the combat's a lot of pressing O, but I think more of it
holding down O.
I think more of it's actually pressing square at the right time, though, and dodging things and pressing O after that, which is what Dark Souls is like. I think it's more like an easy.
Dude, people are going to kill you. You cannot compare this. Okay, look, I haven't played this yet. There's no way you can compare this to Dark Souls.
Okay, so people might kill me if they don't really think about it, but I've played both games, and those are the two most similar games in terms of combat that I could think of. It's like they took Dark Souls and made it easier and called it Final Fantasy in a lot of ways, because that's the way that I played Bloodborne, that's the way that I played the Dark Souls games, and they're almost the same, except if you put it in like a Metal Gear Solid world, with Shadow of the Colossus weapons instead of bosses, because the 13 swords that they have, or 13 weapons that they have, are kind of reminiscent of the Colossi. So it's like those 3 games for me were all put together and made into the game that I kind of wanted, didn't know I wanted, and really liked to play because I've beaten the entire game in 6 days, played it for like 30-something hours, and yeah, you can laugh, but like most of the time when people laugh, it's because they don't understand something, and if you don't understand those two things are so similar, then I'm not going to even try.
I'm going to stop you right there, my friend, because that is not it. You're talking about a game that is very measured, and I'm trying to find the word. I'm so flustered right now because that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
No, I was talking about the game mechanics. I'm not talking about what you're talking about. I'm talking about the game mechanics.
Patrick.
I'm talking about game mechanics, Patrick. You're talking about Dark Souls, a game that's very slow and methodical and has a certain pace to it.
Okay.
Where you're taking on hopefully only 2 or 3 enemies at a time, but preferably 1 at a time. Final Fantasy 15 is a fast, frenetic action orgy where you're usually fighting like 6 or 7 enemies, sometimes more than that, because you'll get into situations where you're fighting 6 or 7, and then like another 5 or 6 like get jumped on top of you.
Now you're talking about pace, though. You're not talking about the structure of the game.
I'm talking about mechanics. I'm talking about the way the combat flows. I'm talking about the fact
flow.
that
You're not talking about the mechanics and how you have to press square and O a lot. That's what Dark Souls is. It's pressing square to dodge and pressing O when you're not getting hit.
All right, like that's a gross like simplification of what Dark Souls is. You're dodging, you're rolling, you're parrying. You do parry in 15. I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing.
Patrick, it's not the same thing.
It's
you're
just
holding
easier.
down a button. There's nothing to the combat in Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
15.
so it's easier, so people aren't going to like it as much as they like the challenge of Dark Souls, but it's the same structure.
But that's the thing. That's the thing, is that people are over the moon for the combat in this game, and I feel like I'm going insane. Because it is, in my opinion, the worst combat system in the series. And now I will say this, like, you will accuse me of being nostalgic, but I'll be the first to admit that when you go back to the older Final Fantasy games, like pre-10, like, those games are very simple because there wasn't a lot of strategy needed in those games, unfortunately. Like, they were great back in the day, but now, a lot of times you can get by most of those games by just pressing attack. And then if you have a caster, sometimes you can go ahead and throw a spell out there, but sometimes you don't even need to do that.
Yeah.
It was Final Fantasy 10 and on, like Final Fantasy 10, 12, 13. I'm going to throw out 11 and 14 because, that's a whole other kettle of fish. I don't want to. Yeah. But those games, it was like, no, you have to be really Johnny on the spot about knowing like enemies' weaknesses to certain debuff spells. You had to be up on buffing your characters. You had to like, manipulate the flow of combat by using, haste and slow and things of that nature that really opened up the combat in a way that I freaking loved. And so then to go back down to Final Fantasy 15, where that's gone, other than like elemental resistances in the weapons, that is one thing that I really do like, is that this is probably the only RPG I can think of where I've held on to older weapons simply for their elemental stats.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
It's like, like this sword is like 100 points of damage lower than what I'm using right now, but it's got fire. So I'm going to use this on this enemy that's weak to swords and fire, and that's going to stack and then do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So like stuff like that is really cool. My thing with the combat, honestly, Patrick, is I wish they just gone ahead and gone the full way and made it an action game. Give me direct control over my character, make it feel good, like give me more to do than just press a button. Give me light attacks, strong attack, give me a dodge roll, give me combos and stuff like that. And then you're talking about a totally different situation. Like, people have compared it to Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, well, no, but Kingdom Hearts, you can do so much more. Like, there's so much more going on under the hood there. Like, the only thing I shares with Kingdom Hearts is that it kind of looks like it in action, and then the camera's terrible. And it's like, that's not really what I wanted to bring from Kingdom Hearts. I just find the combat incredibly boring, but I know I'm in the vast minority because people, like, I watched 7 reviews for Final Fantasy 15 the day before it came out because I was worried. And they were all positive reviews. And let me be clear, I think Final Fantasy 15 is a very good game. I have also played it for like 37 hours and it's only been a week. And I'm almost done with the game. I've actually done a lot more side quest stuff than Patrick has.
Wait, no, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
No.
Nice.
I've done
Patrick,
more than 50 side quests.
But you finished the game.
Yeah. And I'm a higher level than you.
When you beat the game, I saw your thing. It said you were level 46.
Yeah.
I'm level 49 right now, and I'm only in chapter 9.
I've done more side quests, and I've gotten more sphere grid things than you have, or whatever you want to call them. Like, I got that.
I hit that trophy before you.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Guys.
And at any rate, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that I've been spending a lot of time doing side quests, even though I think the side quests are bad.
Yeah, and I was trying to say that I didn't rush through the game either, and I played pretty much as Julian, even though he wants to seem like he's taking his time more than me because he loves Final Fantasy more than me. I love it.
That's not what I'm saying. Oh my goodness. What I'm saying is that I'm spending time with it. I am enjoying my time with the game. What I'm saying is that you're describing a 5-star game. I'm describing a 3.5-star game. That's the thing.
What games are you comparing it to, man? Because there's no other game this year that's like better than it.
Doom.
No, I mean I don't want to play that game.
Hold on. We're talking about opinions here. Let's just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but like, if you're calling that a 3.5-star game, that means there's other games there's like 20 other games that are 4-star this year. 20 other games that are.
I'm not comparing it to other games this year, Patrick.
That's like, how do you make a star system if it's not comparing things to games in general?
It's because I've played a fuck ton of games and I'm comparing it to those. Like, it doesn't have to be the games that came out this year.
Okay. Well, I mean, even the years before, I'm not sure what else you could possibly call 4-star and 4.5 and 5-star over Final Fantasy to this point. I'm sure games in the future are going to vastly surpass it in terms of immersion, in terms of the side quest structure. But up until this point, like, I don't really know that many single player RPGs that I would put 4 stars and 4.5 and 5 stars in front of it. Like, this is definitely 5 stars for me, and like, it's almost certainly my favorite Final Fantasy game.
You're also making it sound like this is the only possible 5-star game. Like, there can be more than that, Patrick. I'm not saying that, like, because you're saying that, well, I mean, you are saying this is like, you know, your favorite Final Fantasy, and you've even told me that it's one of your favorite games of all time. What I'm saying is that it's a very good game with a lot of glaring problems, in my opinion. Like I said, I think the combat is boring, and it's the majority of the game. I think the open world is boring, and it's the majority of the game. Here's what I think is amazing. Like, I think the actual, like, road trip part of it, they nailed. That whole thing, like, when they said that, I was like, oh, that sounds dumb. But it works. It works because those characters are great. Like, their dialogue and banter, like, throughout is great. That's the reason that I'm doing side quests that I think are boring, is because I love to hear their reactions after the side quests. Because the incidental dialogue is amazing. Like, they comment on everything.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, it's incredible. Like, these characters are very fleshed out. They're so much more than the terrible character designs and stupid names that Nomura, like, saddled them with to their benefit. Like, if they were bad characters on top of all that, like, I probably wouldn't have even finished it because that would just be too much. But they're fantastic characters. They're some of the best in the series. I think it's a weird but cool, like, 50s Americana style to the game, which not a lot of people talk about. Like, your car is super sleek and modern, and you've got smartphones, but, like, every gas station you visit looks like it's on, like, Route 66 from the 50s.
True, yeah.
And, like, all the other cars are, like, straight up 50s style cars. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like that's really, that's a really interesting aspect to it that I think more people need to comment on. It's a beautiful game. Like, it is by far the most, like, graphically the most impressive thing I've ever seen game-wise. Like, when you see, like, the summon, well, I've seen one summon because the summoning system is kind of all sorts of borked, but I've seen it 3 times and it's freaking phenomenal. And it's like, hopefully I'll see the other ones. It's a Rama.
Oh, that's one I saw too. It was one of the demos.
Yeah, that's in episode Disgaea, or Disgaea, or whatever.
Yeah, and I hadn't gotten him in that. So this is literally my first time seeing him. I was like, holy crap, that is amazing.
Okay, so it goes right along with, like, my idea for summoning, or not idea for summoning, but idea for boss battles, and how, like, when something happens, it should kind of be like the cherry on top of the cake. Like, you've already mastered this game, and now you get to see something great. And that's kind of how summoning is. It's like, you've already done great in this battle. It's lasted long enough, and they kind of are like, now hold down L2. So maybe that kind of sucks in some ways. I know it's not like the summoning of old, like in 7, where you could, like, do it 2 or 3 times a match. You'd summon a Shiva or something like that. But for this, it's sort of like, oh my god, it's this great cutscene.
Yeah, it works for this because, yeah, you're like you said, it's like putting that final exclamation point on the fight. My thing is that I wish you could do it when you want to do it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like for every battle, but like, cause I had it pop up on like just a random fight. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to do it because I can do it. But like, I really wish this was happening on a boss fight or maybe like one of the bigger like hunts.
See, but it usually is supposed to happen when like it takes too much time to end a battle. And that also happened to me. It was the first time that I went into a battle at night. I was like in level 30 or something like that, and I had to face like this iron giant who had like a melting sword, and he was producing a bunch of fireballs or something from the sword, and it was ridiculous. And I didn't even want to face him, but I kept running away, and he kept chasing after me. And there was a side quest that was right there, and I had to get back to it, or so I thought. So eventually it let me press L2 on the guy, and it was supposed to end, like every summon in Final Fantasy 15 is supposed to end the battle. Well, my guy had so much HP that it still did not end the Iron Giant, and he was still, everything else was annihilated, and he still had like a sliver of HP left, and I killed him afterwards in like 5 minutes, but I was like, damn, like that was supposed to end everything, and it still didn't. So I guess there is like a certain cap for HP that it can do, and like I hit that cap, and I still had to kill that guy, which I would have been so dead, and it probably would have taken me back 30 to 45 minutes, because this game does not save very well for you, and it kills you in weird spots when there's glitches, and you just have to deal with that, but once you do...
I haven't had a game over yet, because you just spam items all the time.
Yeah.
That's one thing that so you'll fight these enemies, and honestly, like, I don't know about you, Patrick, but I feel that levels don't mean anything in this game. I've fought enemies that were 10 levels higher than me, and I've spanked them, like, resoundingly. Mm-hmm. And then I've fought other enemies that are, like, 10 levels below me, but they've got, like, 60,000 hit points, and they're killing me in, like, 2 hits or 1 hit. And it's like, okay, let me just, hit another high potion. Yeah. Oh, I'm dead again? Another high potion. Like, I literally, there was this one, mission that I ended up inadvertently getting into, and it ended up being, like, a level, like the bosses were level 52 and I was level 43 at the time. Everything else was fine, but there was 2 bosses that were level 52, and they both had over 110,000 hit points. And it was literally just a battle of attrition. Like, the only reason that I won is because I happened to have a metric ton of healing potions, and that I kind of just like waited them out until they died.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, you need tons of healing potions in order to like stay alive in a lot of battles. I think maybe part of that is because I don't know the weaknesses in a lot of those enemies, so I was dying way too quickly without knowing what I was really supposed to do. But I think that maybe that's a problem that you can probably stay alive just if you bought enough stuff and done enough hunts. Although I think that's kind of the general RPG structure, and I think in any RPG game I can really stay alive if I've got enough food, if I've got a high enough level. So like, yeah, I was glad sometimes when I was 10 levels above this other character who seemed to be annihilating me, and I could still win because I used 5 high potions or whatever. But yeah, there were also some other enemies, they were 15 levels above me, and I still killed them because I had a well-timed like fire rest spell that cast 4 times, because I used it with my cooking ingredient that I only had 1 of, and gave it 4 times casting instead of 1, which I think is... The crafting in this game is like second to none. I just wish there were more trophies, and that made me want to craft more. And I'd like to talk more about it, Julian, but can I take a break for a second? Because I really got to pee.
Sure.
Oh my god, I'm going to pee my pants if we don't. Outtakes?
That's probably just staying in.
Thank you. No, I can't stay in. It needs to go out.
Go.
Yeah, the pee needs to go out.
just so many thoughts with Final Fantasy 15 for me that I needed to step away for a second because I get really excited about it, and I did not think that it would take me the way that it did because I played so many Final Fantasies that were my first RPG. They will always be my favorite RPG when it comes down to it. And it's like the only RPG that I'll probably play every single installment when it comes out, just like as a loyal fan. It's like when I do, it not only hits the nostalgic elements, but it also hits a bunch of new elements like I was talking about, kind of like a 70% I've seen, 30% new kind of vibe in a game that I'm looking for, where it's like, yeah, I can get through this, but also I'm seeing a bunch of random new like surprises. Like the enemy in this game was so interesting to me.
I will say that as far as that goes, like I would almost say this reverses that, where it's like 70% new, 30%, maybe even 80% new. Like it, it's so different from the series. Like it starts off like whenever you boot the game up, Angelo, it says a Final Fantasy for fans and first timers.
Yeah.
But really like the fans part of it is more of just like lip service. Like, oh, there's chocobos. There's all the old soundtracks that you can buy for the regalia to listen to when you're driving. There's cactuars and Moogles reference.
But that
and
stuff
of course
is so
the
cool.
enemies.
That is
no,
so
it is, yeah.
important to me. Like I had no idea. Well, I knew how much I cared about Final Fantasy, but I had no idea how much I would love to see it in these little ways just come out, like with the cactuar statues that the one kid loves collecting, and you'll see how.
Yeah, I got him.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but that's all I need to say. And the fishing, even, and the cooking is just like so real to me in ways that games never were. Now, I never played like Shenmue or whatever, but I feel like it has Shenmue element in terms of fishing and cooking, and those kind of like real elements where I have to find all the recipes and stuff and concoct the favorite meals for my party members are what made me love Persona. And I think it brought elements of that Persona series and the cooking in, and it brought elements of the Witcher series in terms of combat from what I hear, and it's going to make me want to play the Witcher series because it's one of my friends who's played Witcher more than Final Fantasy was like, yeah, oh my god, this is so much like The Witcher. I love it. I didn't think it was going to be like this. And I was like, yeah, I didn't know I would like it like this so much. So maybe I'm going to need to play more games like that. I don't know.
That's just like when I hear stuff like that, it just makes me think of like people who would back at Game Fellas who would say like, oh yeah, I like role playing games like Resident Evil and Mario.
What?
And, because like, it's not The Witcher. Like, I wish it was. Like, I wish it played like that. I wish it played like an action game, like an action RPG, because it would, like,
see, I don't really know The
that,
Witcher. I was just talking about my friend who said that, so I thought it was a good comparison.
No, yeah.
But
no, well, I don't think it is. Like, I mean, I can't speak to him because he's played The Witcher more, but Angela, you had something?
The argument I heard for saying it's like The Witcher is that it's open world in places, and that when you go into combat, you can't just run into combat. You have to kind of prepare for the combat you're going to engage in. Like in The Witcher, there's a certain amount of presetting. I'm just saying what I heard.
like
Yeah.
in
There's a certain
some
amount of
ways, I
presetting that
guess.
goes on, like, oh, I'm going to take on this
Yeah.
type of an enemy, so I need to put this oil on my sword, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and now I'm good. That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
You really don't
so-
need that much in Final Fantasy.
you-
Right then.
15.
if you're going into a big fight, you want to be full, you want to have just eaten something good, and you probably want to be equipped with the right weapon and maybe throw the right spell at them. But I mean, I don't use magic very much because it's basically grenades, and I think it's dumb.
Yeah, but if you
But,
throw the right spell at the beginning of the combat, you'll take down like half the HP of like that.
Yeah. I'll use it if there's a big group.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you're all weak to Blizzard? Okay, let me just throw this in there, and now half of you are dead, so cool. Like, this is gonna be a lot easier.
I was just going to say, but sorry, there's a big cooldown for those spells too. It's really
Yeah.
like a grenade, and once you said that, honestly, I was like, damn, this is just grenades and shit.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean,
the spells
right
are a
down to
little
only
bit
having,
different.
like,
They're like
3.
nukes. I mean, summons are like nukes or astrals or whatever you call them. But
yeah.
besides that, I was like, it is really fun to craft something extra with those spells. I don't exactly really know how to use the spells correctly, but I think that Magic should be something that's like epic and big like that. So maybe it's right in the end. I'm not sure like how Magic would really manifest itself in real life, but I think it would manifest itself in a more realistic way, a la Final Fantasy 15, where like it's not used that much, and when it is, it's like very effective. Maybe it's not what you want. Like I'd rather use Magic all the time. But
well, I think with it being a Final Fantasy game, I would just rather that the magic is like, whoa, that was a magic spell, you know, where it's like, I think since, let's say 11, if we're counting that, but definitely 12 and 13, like the magic has not been as interesting. You know, it's been like, especially 13 was so fast paced that you couldn't even really tell what the magic was because you were so busy looking at like queuing up your next thing, you know, because it was so fast. Yeah, I mean, you know, we'll wrap up. Like, I will say, going back to the cooking thing, Patrick, that's where the damn, like, 10 years of development and budget went, is because they spent freaking 10 years meticulously creating food dishes that look so scrumptious that you want to eat everything and you're starving even though you just ate dinner and you're still playing this game. You're like, whoa, that looks really good.
Oh, Kenny's secret recipe.
I think, to be honest, I think that came, I think that had that's more of a Vanillaware influence than it is anything else, because if you ever played Odin Sphere or Mumarasa, they're way into the food looking like good and like the whole cooking process and everything. So
yeah.
Oh, sure. But I mean the graphics, Angelo, of the dishes. Like the soup has like that little bit of oily residue on the surface. Like that's where I can see the time went, because there's like
the cup noodles.
I'm like, you guys, you animated this thing. There's no reason to animate this. Like, you could have just like faded to black here, but no, this is an animation. Like, that took somebody like a week to do, and you did that over and over and over. I appreciate it. I'm not saying that it's gone under, I'm not saying it's gone unnoticed. I'm saying, guys, you could have saved a lot of time and money here, and like nobody would have noticed the difference.
Yeah, and to the same effect, I mean, Cindy's tits.
No. You know what's crazy about Cindy is her damn tan lines on her ass when she bends over to, like service your car. And it's like, they rendered some damn tan lines for her that you only see when she bends over. That, I'm not even going to say like it's gross, because like, no, I like women, and I like virtual women. They can be sexy. Like, that's fine. But it's like, guys, like, maybe not spend so much time on this incidental character's tan lines and ship the damn game.
Yeah, dude, they spent like 2 years on Cindy because that girl has more polygons than anybody else. Oh, and it didn't go unnoticed. All my friends, the first thing we were talking about in group chat was how Cindy was servicing us.
So
I just got to say real quick before we move on, because we will do like a full spoiler cast of this game, because I'm about to finish it. I'll probably have it done in the next couple days. You know, I would just like to reiterate, I think it's a very good game. I'm very pleased with it. I'm a little nervous that this is probably going to set the tone for the future of the franchise, a lot in the way that Final Fantasy VII kind of set the tone for years after that one, possibly to the series' detriment a little bit if you go back and really like look at it objectively. But, you know, it is what it is. Like, I can always go back to those classics and enjoy them, and I can go back to this and enjoy it for different reasons.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that the glass is half full, because after 7, 8 and 9 came pretty quick, and I know that before 15 there were not very many Final Fantasy games, so hopefully 16 and 17 come quick.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, like, I'm glad to hear that it's selling well, because I was really worried that the double whammy of Final Fantasy 14 vanilla and this was going to bury that franchise. So hopefully it's successful and it makes a ton of money, and I do get a Final Fantasy 16 and 17. I plan on writing a feature about what I would like that to be, but, you know, we'll see. Other than that, like, if I want a traditional Final Fantasy, I've still got World of Final Fantasy to finish, so there's always that. But we're finished with this part of Consumption Junction. As Angelo holds up his NES Classic Edition, which is
this, but maybe we'll do that next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after you've actually like cracked it open.
I played it.
Yeah, maybe if I get it for a present. I want it so bad.
And I want to finish this podcast so bad, so we're going to go into Chrono Crossing. So cue that music.
Damn, we got another segment. It's not over.
Oh my goodness.
We'll try to fly through this one.
I'd like to go to bed before. Well, it is already 12. Holy crap.
Yeah, we'll try to fly through this.
Not for me.
So
screwed.
yeah, we're Chrono Crossing back to 2002, which I feel was actually a really fantastic year.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought I had my 2002 pick locked in long before I looked at the lists. And then I looked at the list and I was like, oh crap. And I was like, oh, it's this. So it's not the best game of the year by any means, but it is my favorite game of the year. I don't know if you guys want me to go first or
Yeah, tell
you
us.
guys want to kick it
Tell
off.
us!
All right. It's Gitaroo Man.
What?
Wow.
So
What is that?
I really wanted it to be GTA Vice City because we haven't talked about Grand Theft Auto and Vice City is my favorite in the series, but I didn't finish Vice City for years after it came out and I haven't gone back to it. Metroid Prime, probably the best game that came out this year.
Yes!
But I played it in 2002 and I've never looked back.
I played it twice.
Gitaroo Man, I've played for probably hundreds of hours over the years, and I always go back to it, and I look back on it so fondly. It is it is my favorite music game. Beyond Guitar Hero, beyond Busta Groove, beyond Parappa the Rapper.
Rocksmith.
Gitaroo Man. Oh, I haven't played Rocksmith yet, but Rocksmith is like, that's not a game.
I know.
You know,
Is it not, like, I keep
I
going
don't
back
think
and
it
forth,
is.
I'm not sure.
I feel like Rocksmith is like a music like I wouldn't consider Miracle the Miracle Piano thing for the NES a video game. That's a program to teach you how to play the piano. That's how I feel Rocksmith is. But no, Gitaroo Man has so much damn charm. It's got some of the best original music I've ever heard in a video game, and it's got a fresh and unique rhythm action game like mechanic to it. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because we need to go fast and everything, and people are probably screaming that I didn't pick Metroid Prime, or GTA Vice City, or Eternal Darkness, which were all viable candidates.
I didn't pick any of those
either.
either.
Pick Eternal Darkness for sure.
It's another one of those things where I love that game, but I haven't gone back to it since I beat it. And Gitaroo Man, I always come back to. Like, I played it recently. I played it when I set up my game room. Like, that was one of the very first things that I popped into my PS2.
Can you tell us about the mechanics? Because I've never played that game and I know what it is, but I know some people that just listen are like, I don't even know what that even is. So, like, what
Actually,
do you
that's
have
a good
to
point.
do?
Yeah. So you play this like kid named U1 who gets the Gitaroo and becomes Gitaroo Man, a superhero that fights with his guitar. And so there's two phases to each song. You have attack phase and defend phase. So attack phase, there's a cursor in the middle and it's going on a track that like loops around the screen. And as you come to certain points in the song, you hit the button and hold it and let go and hit the button and hold it. So for different phrases, you're kind of like, ba-ba, you hold it and then you let go. And you actually get more points if you let go just a little bit prematurely. And you get like a little bonus for that. And there's parts where you really have to hammer on it or you have to like hold these really long phrases and it's coming from different directions. When the enemy attacks you, you have the face buttons coming at you from 4 different directions. So it's, triangle, square, circle, and X. And so they're coming at you in rhythm, but at a very rapid pace. And so you have to like hit them as they come to the middle of the screen. And sometimes it gets really hectic where you're doing like square, square, triangle, circle, like really fast. And that's basically it in a nutshell. But the music is just so phenomenal. Like I'm unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, all the music in this episode is probably going to be Final Fantasy 15 because I forgot to mention that 15 has one of the best soundtracks in the series.
Oh, I was going to say, it's so good.
Yeah, so good. But
Afrojack.
I might try to slip a Gitaroo Man thing in here just for this section because Gitaroo Man's music is like amazing.
Julian, I just need to say, once you beat Final Fantasy 15, you'll realize it is the best soundtrack you've ever heard. You personally, like, it's not tailored to anybody else except for you.
So far, I would put it as my favorite soundtrack since 8.
And you haven't
that's
even
saying a
heard
lot.
your favorort song yet.
Well, I mean, I have because, like, I've been listening to the soundtracks of better Final Fantasy games on the radio.
Oh, do you know the one that was made for this game?
No. I thought you meant it was like a throwback to one of the older games.
Oh, it's a throwback.
But they've definitely done that.
It's a throwback, but it's someone who you like who's making a song that someone else made.
Oh, is it one of the Florence and the Machine songs?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because she starts the game, you know.
She did?
Yeah, like when you're pushing the car, like they're playing Stand By Me by Florence and the Machine.
Oh!
Yeah, it's really good.
Then you heard the song.
Yeah.
Damn it, that's how it is.
Angela, let me hear yours, because now I'm curious. Like, I assumed that you guys were both going to pick the same game, but now I don't know.
What game was that?
So, I honestly thought everybody was going to pick Metroid Prime. So, now I'm thinking that nobody's picking Metroid
Definitely
Prime, and like our listeners are going to drop kick us off of this.
I'm picking Metroid Prime, guys.
Okay. That's why Patrick is everybody's favorite, because, yeah.
What?
You're everybody's favorite.
It was until this show, maybe.
I just keep it real.
I know that Bob is going to be like, I can't believe you can prove there's a Dark Souls and best game ever made.
Yeah, at first he's going to say that, but then, like, without telling anybody, he's going to think to himself, oh yeah, wait, fundamentally, they are the same. It's just that one's hard and one's easy.
So anyway.
Yeah, I could go on for
let's
hours
not go there
about
again.
how long that is.
Oh, I want to. I want to be proven wrong.
No. Anyway, so my pick was Morrowind. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
Oh, okay.
Wait, but that was on 360 it came out.
No, it came out this year,
original.
both PC and 360 this year.
Wait.
No, it was original Xbox.
No, it
and
was
PC.
originally PC.
Wasn't that this year? No? Am I wrong?
I would have
yeah,
picked
it was this
that.
year.
Yeah, I would definitely pick that over Metroid Prime if that's this year.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 2002 because it was right after I was out of college. So that would be it. Because I bought it when it came out. I have the collector's edition. I love that game.
I'm not sure.
What did you play it on, Angela? Did you play it on Xbox or did you play it on PC? Oh, well, see, there
and
you go.
I modded.
But I don't think it's not even on the top 10 highest acclaimed games on Metacritic. I'm not sure it's 2002.
Initial release date 2002. You're good.
Yeah!
Wait, where?
The wiki for Elder Scrolls. Let's see. It'll have the actual. So it was released on PC in May of 2002 and Xbox in June.
Yeah,
so
I played it on PC.
That's weird.
Yeah, real close.
I definitely played a lot of it. You know what's funny is this is my favorite game of this year, and I still haven't beaten it because beating this game is not where I get my fun out of this game.
No.
I get my fun out of this game of just rolling around, discovering all sorts of crazy crap. And this game is full of crazy crap, especially if you start modding it. But, we talked about, what were we talking about before where I said when I get to my pick, I'll talk about that because now I forget what the topic was.
Boring open worlds.
Boring open worlds. So this was I had never seen an open world like this before. And I remember watching a friend of mine play it on the Xbox.
And to be fair, open worlds were such a new thing at this point also. Right. So there is that.
Right. There was this in GTA.
Yeah.
And GTA is a totally different beast. He was just walking around and he walked over by a random flower and a little box appeared and he goes, oh, and he clicked on the thing and picked petals off the flower and kept going. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Really? You can do that? That kind of stuff. And then just all these boxes are everywhere and he's just running around going, and I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. This is insane. So I went out and bought the game. For PC.
What I really liked was going behind somebody and just holding down the shift button and getting a bunch of aerodynamic
stuff.
What was it called?
Oh. I would just play the stealth character, so I thought we were going about like stealing stuff from them.
But you get
I love how
I think you get faster and your jump goes higher if you go behind somebody and you get your stealth higher by pressing shift under somebody for a whole day.
Yeah. What I would do is when I started the game, I would just go in the lighthouse in the very beginning city in the back corner and just put weight on the thing and go to sleep. And just wake up and have max stealth and just, man, I can walk in the middle of a field, push the stealth button, rip somebody's hat off, and just keep going and they wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Great.
No, explaining that game was so fun. And honestly, I think I would have picked that game if I had known it was 2002. But when I looked at the Metacritic top 10 games, it wasn't even the top 10 most rated game of the year. And I played that game probably more than most games in my entire life. But yeah, I own the special edition for Morrowind. I have like a little pewter figure that came with
statue.
it.
Yep, I have that too.
Yeah.
Yep. The map and everything.
Yeah, you have the big map and the big black box or whatever that it came in.
For a while, I had that mapped framed and hanging on my wall.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I loved that game. Yeah. I can't believe that it wasn't one of the top 10 highest critically reviewed games of the year. Like,
it's strange.
Yeah,
well, if we're talking
four, dude. Sorry.
If we're talking reviewed, then I can see that happening, that it's not in the top 10 because like it's a janky Bethesda game. Like, yeah. So reviews wise, like, yeah, like when you're saying like, oh, this is the year that Mario Sunshine came out and Metroid Prime and Resident Evil Remake and, you know, like Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's like these games are games that got like 9s and 10s like across the board. Dude. You know, and I could bet a Morrowind probably got 8s, which is still fantastic. But when you're comparing it to like a top 10 list of 9s and 10s, it's not going to be in that top 10.
Yeah.
That's why I always look at the wiki.
Like, this is one of the games that has changed my life, literally. Like, just, games can be this?
Yeah.
Really? That's nuts. It's like when, it felt like the same time, it felt like when I first discovered RPGs. Like, oh, wow, you can do this? Mm-hmm. I've never seen a game like that. It made no sense to me. And then all of a sudden, okay, this is amazing. So.
Yeah, that's why so many people get, like, wrapped up in it for so long, because it's like you've even played an RPG like Final Fantasy, and then you play that, and you're like, oh, I can do all those things too. But then you forget about the other things that Final Fantasy does great.
Yeah. And it's a mechanic sandbox. Like, you just run around and do random crap in Morrowind. Or in any Elder Scrolls games. But what made Morrowind so different, and this is kind of, I think, what I wanted to talk about, was, you know, it wasn't a generic stamped out fantasy world. And a lot of critics will talk about this too when they talk about the newer Elder Scrolls games. Because, like, yeah, you get off a boat and you talk to a dark elf and that's kind of like generic. But then you come out and it's like, oh, you can go to the next town. Well, how do you do that? Well, you either follow this path or you ride a silt strider. What's a silt strider? Holy crap, is that a giant insect? And you're going to ride that thing like the world's biggest horse over to the next village. And then just from there on, like, there's people living in giant mushrooms and all sorts of crazy.
Oh,
like,
the giant mushrooms.
Cool world. A giant mushroom village. Yep.
Love it.
So just one thing after another. And I wish they would do another world like that, or at least revisit Morrowind somehow, like that island, because it was a very unique place. And I'm done. That was my pick.
No, that's great. Like, I fully understand, you know, why you picked it. And I also have to remember, because like you said, we're in the years where you're playing a lot of PC and original Xbox games. So, like, did you even have a GameCube at the time?
I did not.
Okay, so yeah, like, you wouldn't have played Metroid Prime.
But I did play, I did play Metroid Prime later on, and it's a great game. I beat it. I played it through twice, but I've still definitely played Morrowind more, and I would go back to Morrowind, I think, before I went back to Metroid Prime right now. So.
Well, Patrick's going to allow me to talk about Metroid Prime, and I appreciate that, because, like, we do have to talk about Metroid Prime.
We should absolutely talk about Metroid Prime.
But before that, I just want to qualify myself and say that I didn't even, like, I saw Morrowind, it was like, oh, I'm so picking that if that weren't the remastered version. And to me, I don't know why that would only pop up in the top 10, but also, you said Mario Sunshine, that's not in the top 10 either. That's weird. That
doesn't surprise me either, because Mario Sunshine has some issues.
It got a lot of flack, because it wasn't the Mario game of all Mario games. You know, it was the first Mario game where he had, like, a big thing on him. You know, he had, like, what do you call it?
The flood. It just, like, that mechanic wasn't very fun.
Yeah.
Like, it was good, but it wasn't as fun as, like, free flying in Mario 64.
Right. I would have been,
you know,
better off without any mechanic. I could just pick up the flood sometimes, you know.
Yeah. But Patrick, if you want to pick Morrowind, that's fine. Like, you know, like, that's totally valid if you didn't know it was out and then you know.
I don't, but I'm also like, Virtua Fighter 4 is one of my favorite fighting games. You know, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 was great. Splinter Cell came out, you know, that was the first one, and that was like a really good stealth game. Like Eternal Darkness.
Yeah, it was a great year.
Eternal Darkness was great, and I would pick it maybe if I had beaten it, but I couldn't figure out the whole game at the time because I wasn't that good at video games. Like Warcraft 3 was the last strategy RPG that Warcraft ever was, you know, like lots of big stuff, and I can't believe that Mario Sunshine didn't even make it in the top. Like, why is Madden 2003 number 4?
I mean, back then those games were still reviewing really well.
I know,
especially because you're 3 years into that generation, so that's like the sweet spot for sports games.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if we're just talking about straight up reviews, we're just talking about review scores, not necessarily like, you know, impact on the, you know, the industry or anything like that. Then yeah.
But yeah, just going up from there, you know, A Link to the Past GBA, you can't pick that, obviously. Vice City, I couldn't pick that because I don't really like the 80s in general, and I didn't like those Grand Theft Auto games. I thought they were ugly. You liked them, and I think that would be a swell choice for number one. But for me, Metroid Prime obviously had to be it because I had the GameCube, and it was one of the few games at the time where I was like, oh, this open world thing like Metroidvania or whatever is awesome, and I never really experienced it so much before. So when I got it in first person and I got it in a Metroid style where I was shooting, I liked it a lot. One of the things I will say though is I never really liked standing in front of doors that aren't open, and it happens a lot in video games like Final Fantasy 15, everyone's worst chapter, chapter 13. All you're doing is standing in front of those doors. And that happens a lot in Metroid Prime. You have to shoot doors open with your blaster in different ways. And I think that if this came out in a different year, I wouldn't like it as much. But like the way that it changed the Metroid franchise and what I want it to be is like, it's hard to understate, as well as like the way I had to go back and look at a bunch of different parts of the world. But I really like the plot, too, because it was about genetically enhancing things. And, you know, I like Final Fantasy 15, which, surprise, is about genetically enhancing something. And there's a bunch of genetically enhancing stories that, you know, a bunch of different, like, bioengineered people or things that I always fall for in stories. And that's part of it in this. So I have to give it to Metroid Prime because first, the story's awesome. The collecting is pretty cool, especially for the time. It's the best, second to none. And just like I couldn't think of anybody else to give it to during the GameCube's, you know, reign of glory.
Was that the first time long elevator rides were used to mask loading sequences?
I think probably.
It may have been. I mean, Symphony of the Night would use those hallways to cover up the loading screens, and Soul Reaver on the PS1 would have these certain corridors where I remember reading an interview where they were literally there to like hide loading. But yeah, it might be for elevators. Yeah. I always think of Mass Effect, but
that's what I was thinking of as kind of the joke. But there's also a thing too where if you really go tearing through Metroid, every once in a while you'll shoot a door and it won't open for like a couple of seconds.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
the room.
Yeah,
behind it. Yeah, that was kind of neat.
Some of those rooms where you're using the morph ball and you make it through like really fast, and then it's like, it's open. Okay.
Yeah. Also, I know like graphics aren't, but like the lighting for the morph ball was just incredible at the time. Mm-hmm. Like when she went into the morph ball and rolled around, it just shot out like shafts of light that actually reflected. Like, the actual shaft of light itself reflected on the wall. Like, no other game console was actually doing that.
Oh, man. Like, you know, I fired that one up on my GameCube on a modern TV with the component cables for the GameCube. And it doesn't look like a current gen game, but I'll be damned if it doesn't look like an early, like, 7th gen game. Yeah. And that's pretty amazing. You know, like, we're talking 14 years ago. And it's
still gorgeous.
Yeah. So, yeah, wonderful game. And over the comments at Pixelbit, it's no surprise. The first one comes from Jamie, and he says it's wasn't a hard choice at all. It's Metroid Prime. He says, without question, the best game I had played back then. In the years prior to then, I kept trying to imagine what Metroid would be like if they designed it as a first-person game, but I just couldn't visualize it and assumed it would be impossible to make. But Retro Studios proved me wrong. And he goes on to say, you know, like scanning was like a really big deal. I'm going to go real quick with this stuff because we're running long. Of course, the music and sound effects. I mean, phenomenal soundtrack. And then adding some of those classic Metroid sound effects, but also plenty of new ones. You know, and adding platforming to a first person game and not sucking, you know, like, I remembered at the time people stopped calling it a first person shooter and called it a first person adventure. And that's so true, you know, because it has like all of the adventuring platforming elements of the older Metroid games, but in first person, and it works, and it shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah. And the lock-on mechanic made it feel more like, okay, the shooting is definitely key factor here, but we're not just here for the shooting.
Yeah, you don't have to be an awesome Twitch shooter person to get through this game. And I appreciated that as well, because I'm not one of those people. Transmet23 says, screw Prime, Fusion is my pick for 2002.
Oh.
There's just something about Metroid Fusion that I love. Maybe it's the artwork. I didn't remember that those games came out on the same day.
It was good. I think that the difference between Prime and Fusion was like Fusion had some bosses that were a little bit more difficult. You could beat it quicker if you knew what was going on, and it was sort of an older kind of structure since it wasn't first person and stuff like that. But I thought that it was harder to handle if you weren't good in that type of a game. And also, I had no idea that even released on the same day until you just said it. And then I remembered the day that happened in my real life, and was like, oh.
You know, well, my thing, so I think it's a great, like, 2D Metroid game, but I hated that they fused her with a Metroid and that it, like, kind of changed her abilities in a really weird way, but then also that's where the series ends. Yeah. Like, there isn't a game in the storyline that takes place after Fusion, and it's like, you can't just leave me hanging there. She's part Metroid now. What happens now?
Yeah, and I hate that about a lot of games, and it's why I was almost like, I shouldn't even give Metroid Prime the game of the year, because it's not even like the last game when it first came out, because it happened between Metroid 1 and Metroid 2 or whatever. But I hate prequels like that, but it was just such a good, well-structured game, and it was something that I probably stuck my mind into more than the other games, so I had to.
There's kind of a throwaway line in Fusion too that just kind of. I always thought it was a little bit disturbing. Like, she mentions, I've been inside my suit for so long that it actually became a part of me, and they had to surgically remove it to get it off of me. And I'm like, that's so creepy in a way,
right?
You know.
And I never thought of her as, like, always being in her suit. I always thought of her as getting on her ship and getting out of her suit. And honestly, like, if we're talking about, like, my dream, like, Metroid sequel, it's a game where her ship crash lands and she's not in her suit at the time. And so she gets out of the rubble and she only has her blaster and her high jump boots. And part of the game is you trying to, like, basically get her armor back. But, you know, it explains why you would get Metroided. Like, it would be an integral part of the storyline there. But, you know, it's probably gonna be a long time before we get another Metroid game. Sadly.
If we ever do.
Yeah. Xrian says, to be honest, it should be Metroid Prime, but I'm sure that'll already be talked about extensively. So I'll go Guilty Gear, specifically Guilty Gear X2. He says it managed to differentiate itself from Street Fighter and be amazing in the process. Unique characters, Roman cancels, false Roman cancels, burst meters, rock music. I would say butt rock music. One-hit kill
Best
finishers.
Rock music.
And so much more made this game so different from other 2D fighters. Guilty Gear is beautiful to look at. I cannot, like, fathom its mechanics. And I'm a person who plays a lot of fighting games, and it is too much for me.
So much going on.
So much going on.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
It's in the air, it's in the ground, it's everywhere.
Yeah. And I can see people who, you know, and I think, JD mentions that it's considered an anime fighting game, which is where they're typically like more, like, they're faster paced and, like, crazier. And it's like, I can see people who love Guilty Gear are probably the ones who love, like, the versus games, like Marvel vs. Capcom or Marvel vs. Street Fighter. I like to look at them, but I can't play them in any, like, competitive capacity. You know, like I can mess around with them.
I just want to say on a quick side note that with the announcement of the new Marvel vs. Capcom, which I'm very happy about, and I have my, arcade stick, I've been thinking, like, what can possibly top a game like Marvel vs. Capcom or this versus this? And I was like, I'm really just waiting for, like, movies versus video games. And then, like, with a verse TV show DLC or something like that. Like, how cool would it be to play Joey on Friends against Noctis?
No,
So Salty Bet the game. Yeah.
Wait, what is it?
Salty Bet. I don't think it's around anymore.
I never heard of that.
It's like, have you heard of those Mugen fighters?
Mm-mm.
Where it's like people basically have hacked and modded like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and they've added like their own sprites. So you've got like Peter Griffin versus like God tier Ken, where he's got like a whole different set of moves, and you've got like Optimus Prime and like all sorts of weird stuff.
And like Lana Del Rey, because why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, whatever. Like literally anything anybody makes, they just throw in a fighting game.
Because she's so good, that's why.
All right, moving along. Fire in the Hole says, my choice is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, my favorite in the series. I played this game endlessly when it came out. My favorite skateboarding game by far. The original for PlayStation was a huge hit at my school and everyone played it. I knew all the songs by heart, all the skaters by name, and all the signature tricks. Wolverine and Darth Maul were the hidden characters, which I thought was really cool. I was so into this game that I even started to get into skating myself, but I never was really that good at it. So, that was the last Tony Hawk game that I played.
I want to say that Tony Hawk is also the reason I got into skateboarding and also the reason why I suck at skateboarding, so I'm there for you.
Right? Closing things out over at Pixelbit is Darth Hater, who says, oh, and here we go. For Chrono Crossing, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was easily my favorite game of that year. Online multiplayer was not really a thing yet, so it was fun playing this game with friends at each other's houses, and no one used all the OP characters. All the characters and guests, were fun. I just watched the PlayStation Experience press conference, and the announcement of a new game has me super hyped. So there we go. Yeah, just like I was saying, Marvel vs. Capcom. I love that game because Mega Man's in it, but I can't play that game. It's just too crazy for me. But
that was the first game that first fighting game I ever played in an arcade, and I absolutely loved just being War Machine and getting that big gun.
Right?
He was my favorite guy because of the way he looked, and then also I was able to get like a 40-something hit combo just by pressing the one button. I was like, so many hits, yes! So I just kept doing it.
Well, on Twitter, Bobby, at BG Bronson says that 2002 was an awesome year for games, and he cites Hitman 2, Tekken 4, Morrowind, Blood Omen 2, no, sorry, Bob, no, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but he says my pick, would have to be Onimusha 2. If anything solidified my love for samurais, it's that. And, yeah, I like Onimusha 2 a lot. It's my favorite in the series, actually.
I love the variety we're getting with these.
Oh, yeah, that's why I love Chrono Crossing.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if we're talking about, like, short list of, like, characters that I would love to see in, like, a new Marvel vs. Capcom game, either Samanosuke from Onimusha 1 or Jubei from Onimusha 2, because I think that series is criminally overlooked when you talk about Capcom franchises.
Yeah, it's just one of those things in America where, like, the game name is not easy for a lot of people to remember or, like, want to like. So, like, I mean, they sort of shot themselves in the foot by calling something Onimusha. Maybe it's great in Japan, but it's like, there's other things called Metal Gear.
Yeah, we had a guy that would come into the store to play that one. He always say, "Can I play that Oshimushi?"
Yeah, if you can't even remember what the title is, some people just won't even remember it at all.
Yeah, I thought they should have just called it the Ogre Slayer, because that's, you know, kind of what it boils down to anyway. James Kalunga at J_Kalunga says, if I had to pick one, it would be Vice City. I put GTA on the map, and Ray Liotta and Luis Guzman are in it, and they're two of my favorite actors. He was down between that and Gitaroo Man, actually. So, Kalunga and I, we go way back, and I'm not surprised that Gitaroo Man would have been one of his picks, because he's really big into those rhythm action games like I am. And lastly, this wasn't like, I don't think it's an official submission to Chrono Crossing. She only listens to the show sometimes, but, Sophie, on Twitter at Cincy Hussy says, didn't Kingdom Hearts come out in 2002? That's my favorite game. And yes, it did. So that counts.
Yeah, it was actually one of the top 10 selling games of that year.
Yeah, I love that first Kingdom Hearts game. I'm not a fan of what happened after, but that first game is really special to me.
I do not, but that's me.
And that's a podcast.
It is. We're done.
Yeah, it's a long one, and we got to get to bed, so we're going to go and cut this short. Like I said, next episode, we will not be doing Chrono Crossing or Stage Select. We're going to be talking about the state of the gaming union in 2016. You can definitely submit to us on that topic if you want to let us know what you think of this generation so far. You know, what system you're backing. Have you, changed? Have you switched camps? Things like that. You can always go to pixelbit.com and comment there, or hit us up on the show at Twitter at NWPcast. And as always, you can find the rest of us on Twitter. Angelo.
I am at a roguish ham.
Patrick.
At some boss.
And you can find me at Julian_Titus. That's it. There's no more. We're ending the show. Goodbye. Keep it pants to the net.
Well, there's more shows. We're just done with this one.
This is true.
Yeah.
If I ever get done peeing.
Something. Going through all that trouble to make our own custom cup, it's made me appreciate cup noodles even more.
Perhaps we truly can't improve upon perfection.
It's not about finding the single best ingredient. It's about crafting that perfect blend of meat, egg, and shrimp. That harmony of flavors is key.
Yeah, you're right. Makes you appreciate how delicious these noodles really are.
I know I sure do.